Hello, 13th jurors. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Good morning. Why isn't my equipment working? Aliens. Aliens. It's always the aliens. Hello. 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 I wonder. Things just aren't meant to work for me some days. Hi, good afternoon. Hello, Dog Mom. Member for 3 whole months. That's, look.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yes, we did. We did. Hello, hello. I have to check this. For whatever reason, I've got all kinds of things that aren't working over here. But this is what happens with our alien invasions. Is it YouTube acting up again? Okay. Well, as long as it's YouTube and not my stuff. Because it is on my, all this stuff seems to be working. But my YouTube stuff that I have on this screen is not working. So that can only mean one thing. Aliens. Speaking of which, Iowa, with the Backyard Critter Cam, donated to the Anti-Alien Fund. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. And from the looks of how things are going today, it looks like we're going to need it. You know, I am going to do this before I forget because y'all know how my brain goes. Let's celebrate our first to the tailgate, the ones who came in, got the party started. I appreciate y'all so much. Getting the party started for us. Today, Lucy's bow looks like sunglasses. I don't know if you can see. She just had a snack and a piece of jerky, and she just had one of everything. She's a little pig, y'all. And I mean, she's a cute pig, but she's a little pig. Look, she's like her mama. Girl likes to eat. But I fed her, because I have to feed her first, because God forbid. I fed her and then thought that I could, I've been working on the podcast this morning, so then I thought I could scarf some food down myself real quick because I just fed her. No, ma'am. She's like under the desk, her paws up, what have you got? Is your stuff better than my stuff? I was eating grapes and she was freaking out, but dogs can't have grapes. So I'm trying to explain that to her, but I don't know if y'all have met Lucy, but she is not one to listen when you tell her no. I want to show y'all something because we have something really cool while we're waiting on aliens or whatever else happens. We have another best friend.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Kathy says, started with a gifted membership and now I'm here. Oh, I love it. I love it. And we have to talk later too about bingo. Me and you and RA have to talk about bingo. I want to do a bingo collab for all of us because we have a lot of people that will watch a lot of our same stuff. And I've been saying for so long, I want to do we always talk about the bingo stuff, and I know they all have the bingo cards. And I think it'd be so fun to do a community bingo thing. Oh, yep. There's RA too. I want us to do a community bingo thing. Because Kathy covers some stuff that on Snapped and things like that I don't get to see. And then RA and I are doing the same trial right now, but normally, we'll be doing different trials. And I think it'd be so fun to do a community bingo and, be able to give prizes. I can send out merch and stuff for the first bingo winner for each trial that we do or whatever. And then, or not even each trial until we get a winner, and then we'll start over. I think that would be so fun. The 13th recovery gossips. I love it. I love it. Oh. 80s is not very good at sneaking. So hello. I have missed this morning. I got to start out in RA and then did not get to last because I've been working. Y'all, this podcast is way more work than I've anticipated. So I ended up, I was a lurker. I was trying to lurk, but I did not get to hear any of the fun this morning. So I'm going to have to be on replay crew. But I've got a lot of, I'm working a lot because we have a lot going on, but I want to show y'all something that I'm really excited about. We have cash register. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. It's Friday and there's best friends and there's stickers and I'm in a good mood because I haven't seen the defense on today. Once Tommy's face gets up there, that might change, but yes, RA. Yes, RA. We might be, let me show you actually. RA. Since we're going to be doing verdict together. These are verdict eyebrows. So you just cut them out and then you put them on here and you put a wet rag over them. And it's just like one of those stick-on tattoos that you get in the, like in the bubblegum machines and stuff. And those are my verdict eyebrows. It's very, very entertaining. It started out as just something to do to kill time during our verdict watch, and then now it has become tradition. We did gain some subs this week, and I am excited about it. And actually, that's one of the things I was going to show y'all. So we have right now. We are at 80. I don't know what we're at. I don't know. Let's see. I looked last time and I think when I posted last night, it was like 85 something. I think it was at 85.80 last night. We're at 85.95 now. Okay. So we are going to be approaching 10K, within the next few weeks. So this is what we're going to do because I want to 10K is something that I thought like I would never get. I can remember RA telling people like when we were in chat, and this is before I was streaming. Of course, this is like when I was just doing my my videos and everything, my recap videos. I can remember him telling people to go, like bribing people basically, like, hey, if you go, sub to her channel, she'll come on, maybe she'll come on or whatever. And because, people would watch all day there and then watch my recap videos and stuff because I tend to pick up on like weird details and stuff. So I can remember like, when I'm getting to 1,000 thinking like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And now we're 5 away from 8,600. So we're 14 away from 10,000, which is going to be so much fun. So what we're going to do, I want to make a big deal about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 10K giveaway because the reason that we are approaching 10K is because of how amazing our people are. And so I want to make the whole 10K party all about our people because y'all are the best and we're all best friends. So I thought it'd be so fun to do a 10K giveaway and I want to do it big. So we're going to do 10, I'm going to give away 10 stickers, 10 mugs, 10 t-shirts, and then one like grand prize winner or whatever will get to pick anything they want from the merch site or design your own and we'll make it and send it to you. So it will be, so there will be 31 winners total. Oh, and Kathy said that she is going to give 10 crowns. My crown that I wear from my that Kathy made me, and JT has one too. My crown. So Kathy's going to give 10 crowns too. So there will actually be 41 winners. which I think just sounds so much fun. And so we're going to, the way that we've decided to do this is there will be some that there's a wheel that it'll be where you can like program the names in there or whatever. And it's not an actual wheel because I love y'all, but I'm not going to sit here and write out 10,000 screen names. But there's a wheel where you can program the names in and then like electronically spin it or whatever. So that'll be fun. We'll do it on air. We're going to have a 10K stream party. There's a couple surprises that are coming. There's a guest video, I think, that's coming, which will be really exciting. And we're just going to do a bunch of fun things. We're going to have some games that day, and I have to clog. I told everybody that if we got to 10K, I would clog. I said that when we were at like 2K, and now I regret it, but yet here we are. Julie is a new member.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Welcome to the family. Welcome, welcome. We are glad to have you. Thank you for joining. I'm so excited. So this sounds so much fun. So we're gonna have giveaways. We're gonna have all kinds of stuff. For the grand prize winner, you can pick anything you want off of the merch site. Anything that if you want to design your own, it just has to be something on the merch site. We can put the design on there. You can, tell us what you want, send a picture, whatever. So tell us if you want it to be a saying or something, and we can make it. It just has to be something that's available on our merch site, and we can put whatever design you want on there for you. So I thought that sounded so fun. And then, of course, you get to come to our 10K party, which is going to be so much fun. We're going to play games, and we're going to do the Name That Trial game, which I'm really excited about too. I've actually started trying to get some of the like random quotes and stuff like from, we played it kind of the first time that we decided to play it. I was overworking myself, and so I was trying to do it as the credits were coming on and trying to think of things, and it, so we got a few of them, but we didn't get much. So we're going to come up with some of those too. Any of those that you think will be funny on there, send them to me. You can email them in. I think it's just like little random clips, things that, we say from different stuff. So it will be a lot of fun. I'm excited. And I know that, I know we've still got 1,400 to go. So this is not going to be like, hey, next week we're going to do this. I know we've got some time, but I'm excited. We're just starting to plan it now, and it's going to be a blast. So, let's, can we replay 5 membership day at the party? Yes. The 10K giveaway party day. And the rhymes just make it even better, really. The 10K giveaway party day, we are going to have some of the clips. We're going to have like a highlights clip from some of our stuff, from some of our guests and some of that stuff, some of the times that y'all have made me cry, some of our first milestones that were so fun and so cool. Some of the things that like where our inside jokes came from and all of that stuff too. This is just, I'm even getting emotional now. This is just one of those things that I am so thankful. When I was sick, it really kind of put everything in perspective. And then when you realize, the way that you're living your life and what you spend your time doing and stuff you become much more aware of it when you go through something like that, when you think that your time is up. And so to be able to do this, and do something that I love so much every day is just the coolest thing in the world. So I'm so grateful, which is why I want to make such a big deal about the 10K thing, because this isn't about the channel or about us. It's about y'all, because y'all are the reason that we're able to do this. And this is so much fun. And I'm very grateful, because I didn't, I never in a million years imagined that this is where we would be. So it's really cool. And I'm very thankful. We have another Yahoo! Laura, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of the love and support. Y'all are truly the best. 2,000 subs, Friday or Saturday night party. I don't know. We'll probably do a vote when we get a little bit closer. We'll probably do a vote because we want as many people to be able to do it as we can. So maybe we'll do a vote. I don't want it to interfere with, if we do it on a Friday, I don't want it to interfere with the It's Not Relevant podcast or Night Court. So it might be, we might end up just doing it on like a Sunday evening or something. So we'll figure it out. When it gets a little bit closer, we'll do a vote and see who can come on or who wants what day. That way we can try to get as many people as we can. RA, I love y'all too. And I think and I'm sorry for ghosting you because I thought that I would be terrible on live YouTube. And now look at where we're at. So funny. Alyssa K, for the road to 10K tears. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm not crying because it's Friday. I'm only crying a little bit. I'm just very blessed, and I know that, and I appreciate that, and I just love our people. Y'all are the best. Yes, we will include the pre and inauguration nights of Trial Daddies. That's history. That's part of what has gone down in history. So that will definitely be on there. It's going to be the 10K giveaway party day is going to be so much fun because we're going to have so many of the really fun history moments and stuff. And I can go ahead and guarantee you that first time that I tricked JT into putting on a wig and reading the romance novel by Chad Daybell, I can guarantee you that is going to be top 10. Like that might be like our grand finale of the stuff that we do. So that was one of my all-time favorite moments in life, which is a little creepy, kind of, honestly, for that to be in the top, moments, but that's okay too. Lindsay Hendricks, you get a sticker. I can't imagine spending my days with any other group of people. The Southern hospitality, twang, and sass is unmatched. I love y'all with my whole Texas heart. Lindsay Hendricks, we love you too, and we are glad you are here. I appreciate it. Y'all are the best. We got y'all. I'm trying to catch up. Jody, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just me. It's been a member for 3 whole months.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Best friends for 3 months. BFFs. We love our Brandy and Lucy girls. We love you too. Lucy, you can't tell it right now that she loves y'all so much because she's kind of doing what she does best and just sitting there looking cute, but she loves y'all too. Thank you for the super sticker. Brandy, you're amazing, and I absolutely love being here with all of you. We love having you here too. Y'all all make up like this amazing little family, and I love it. Lisa Dempsey is responsible for the verdict eyebrows. Well, Lisa Dempsey and the one lady who didn't like my eyebrows because they're not apparently dark enough. But Lisa Dempsey is responsible for the verdict eyebrows. All right. Thank you. My eyes got really sweaty when you started to share what this channel means to you. Thank you. I appreciate it. My eyes get sweaty too. It means a lot to me. And I just feel so grateful. I remember before I started streaming when RA would say things like, he would be like, it's really the best job in the world. And I was thinking like, yeah, it sounds like so much fun, but I remember him saying that. And like, now that I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. It really is just doing something that I love and hanging out with my friends all day. I mean, and also a crap ton of work, let's be honest. But the most important part is, getting to hang out with you all day. Megan Baldwin, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing your face every day. And I know I'm over the top at times, but I love my Florida girl. Look, if if anybody can relate to being over the top sometimes, it is I, my friend. So I get it and I appreciate it. And thank you very much. That is very generous of you. Y'all are also Shireen. Shireen says my eyeballs are wet with the memories. Thank you so much, Shireen. Shireen's been here. Like a lot of y'all have been here from the very beginning. Like from the, the first, from the Lori Vallow stuff. And so, which is fun too. So I appreciate y'all being here. Nikki, thank you so much. Brandy, you're such an amazing person and have an even better YouTube host. I thought it said, and have an even better YouTube host. I was like, which one, JT or Lucy? Which one is? But I see it now. I just can't read because the sweat in my eyeballs. Thank you so much. I can't say it enough. I love your channel and this community. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for making it possible. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Casey Bama Girl, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I think I'm caught up. Oh, no, I'm not caught up. I'm not caught up. Jen, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you. Thank you. Party. You've already been a member. Has it been 1 month already?
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Welcome. Time is flying by, isn't it? I love it. I'm happy for it. I'm here for it. Happy 1 month anniversary. BFFs, 1 whole month. And Candace Hoff, thank you so much. Have enjoyed this channel since the beginning. The music gets me going and the chat keeps me guessing. Yes, 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 yes. It is fun, isn't it? We do have a good time, don't we? All right, let me get this pulled up because otherwise I'm never going to. Let's see. Hi, chat. Do this. Unmute. All right, there we go. Oh, go this way. All right, let's see. All right, am I caught up now? I think. Oh, nope, I'm not. Holly, thank you so much. I love you, and I'm so happy I found your channel. We've had lots of laughs and look forward to many more. Thank you so much. That's one thing about this channel, y'all. We laugh, and also sometimes our eyeballs sweat. That's known to happen as well. But we do have a good time, don't we? I love going through all of this with y'all. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Deeb's member for 3 whole months. Best friends for 3 months.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Happy anniversary, Deebs. We are glad you're here. Looking forward to 10K. Congrats, Brady and JT. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I can't believe it's like, I mean, we're only 1,400 away. So, which is good that it's not like tomorrow because I need time to plan the 10K giveaway party day, but it'll be here before we know it. It's crazy. Law Nerd Amber, you're 3 months too? Gosh, all these anniversaries.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, happy anniversary. You're the best. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm not caught. I keep thinking I'm caught up. Member for 2 months. Lady Libra, member for 2 months. Love you, JT and Lucy. We have the best chat. Thank you so much.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Happy anniversary. We love you too. We're glad you're here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dinah, for the super chat. We love you, Brandy, and I am excited for this. You're amazing. Thank you. Love so much. Thank you so much. I've been here since Vallow will never leave. Yes, we have brought you into the cult, and now you can't leave. We're glad you're here. Oh, okay. Now I'm not caught up. Chevelle, we love you. I wasn't accepted at first, but you welcomed me with open arms, and I appreciate you for being you. Chevelle, you are always welcome here. You will always have a seat at our table and in our jury box, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The crochet crown is amazing. That's why you got to be one of our subscribers, because you have a chance to win one of your very own. Lady Libra, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Alyssa K. Alyssa K said, raise your hand if you've been on this wild ride since day one. That is so funny. Actually, we do have people in here that have been here from day one, and it's funny too because I actually have a spreadsheet of the people who were here on day one, and I think almost every single one of them that were here that first night that I did it, and this is before I tricked JT into joining me, and I had no idea what I was doing. There was no intro, there was no outro music, there was no, and then I couldn't figure out how to get it working, and then it was working, but then it was like the swirly thing because I was sharing my screen, and then I'm like the mic wasn't working, and it's just me, a nervous wreck, holding Lucy in my hands because there's no video. It was audio only. So I made a couple graphics, and I'm like a nervous wreck. And I'd messaged a few people and was like, I don't even know if I'm, this is probably the stupidest thing ever. And I'd asked RA, for advice on how to do it. And then I asked Jams to come because I thought nobody would show up. That was the first one. And the people who were there, pretty much all of them still come every day. Isn't that crazy? Thought I'd scare y'all away by now. Regina Crawford, thank you for super chat. Thank you. I'm trying to get caught up. Thank you, Maggie Carr, for the super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brandy. Love your channel. We love you too. Jen says, I was probably day 2 or 3. Well, then you missed the really bad one because day 2 and 3, I think I had recruited JT by then. I think day 1 of streaming is the only day that I had to do, or maybe it was the first 2 days. I know I had him by at least day 3 and tricked him into being here. So don't go back and look at that one. It was bad. Kayla Jones, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Okay, I think now I'm caught up. Now I'm caught up. Yes. All right. Okay. Thanks for making me cry on a Friday. Y'all are the best. My eyeballs are drying. All right, let's see. Sheree says, I didn't talk in chat when I came the first day. Then second day, I made so many new friends. I was not a big chat. Well, okay, first of all, I was not a YouTube, like I didn't even know how to really work YouTube. Like at all. And I had never chatted. RA is the very first YouTube chat that I ever actually participated in. I watched the Law and Crime one because I watched Trials, but I hid that chat. I was like, those people are not my people. But I saw how they were to each other, which is the whole reason I ghosted RA when he was asking, if I wanted to pop in on his stream when I was doing the charts and everything on Murdoch and all that, and the, recap videos. And I was like, no, I'm not coming on a YouTube chat. I've seen how YouTube chats are. No way. There's no way. Because I'd only seen Law and Crime. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to come onto a YouTube chat and open myself up to have people talk to me the way that they talk about me the way that they talk about those people. So I was like, nope, not doing it. And then I actually watched his channel and I was like, oh, this ain't that. And then here we are. RA channel was the first one that showed me that not everybody on YouTube sucks. That people, if you find the right people, and if you bring the right people, and if you kick the wrong people out, then you can build a community that's like ours, which is what I love. let's see. And I still don't even know how to work YouTube as good as I should most of the time. And I still don't even chat in other chats. Like every once in a while I'll say hi or something if I see some of our people in one. But I very rarely will chat in other chats. Even the things that I watch now, I won't, chat or comment or anything. Well, I'll leave like comments to support, but I mean, I won't like chat in the actual thing. But let's see. Long crime chat is not a chat. I did watch all of Travis here. But long crime chat is not a chat. That's funny. Long crime chat is not a chat. It's not. It's a trap. It's a trap. Let's see. Marie Moss said, I got cussed out on another chat for difference of opinion. Happy I'm here. Could you imagine not having Marie Moss here? Like, she's our official statistician. How would we wouldn't know nearly as much as we know without Marie Moss here. So I'm sorry that you got cussed out, but I'm glad that it led you here because we need you here. Meg says, I'm not a big chatter as I get so nervous, but I'm always here and thank all of you. At least I don't feel lonely anymore. Thank you. You're all lovely. We love you, Megs. We're glad you're here. I'm always lurking while working and don't get to chat often, but I love y'all. Thank you, Magic Unicorn. Oh, they did not. Okay, so they did not show. I'm glad you reminded me. I am captivating. They did not show the trial or the hearing. And I pulled court docs a minute. It was on Zoom, and I didn't have the Zoom information. I was working on the podcast, so I didn't have time to try to sneak into it anyway. But I tried to pull court docs, and they haven't updated it yet, so I don't know what happened. But I guess they moved it to 11 and did it by Zoom. But so I haven't been able to find out what happened yet. But I'll try to find out today or this weekend. Queen Oliver Than, thank you. This is the best group of people, and I'm so happy to be here since day one. We are happy to have you too. So happy you're here.
Please be seated. Your Honor, the jury's all present and accounted for.
Okay, we are back on the record and C-250966, David Randolph, Thomas Randolph. In the record that Mr. Randolph is present with his attorney, Deputy District Attorney on behalf of the state. Do both parties give into the presence of our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome. Thank you very much for showing back up today. I know it's been a long time. We're getting near the end, I swear. All right, state you may call the next witness.
Dr. Gavin.
Why is it doing this? There we go.
I do. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Lisa Gavin, L-I-S-A-G-A-V-I-N.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Gavin, how are you employed?
I'm a forensic pathologist, medical examiner here in Clark County.
And what does that mean you do?
I do autopsies or medical legal death investigations on sudden and unexpected deaths here in Clark County, as well as several adjacent counties.
And what is your educational background and training that allows you to work in that capacity?
I went to medical school at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine. I did a pathology residency at Hartford Hospital in Connecticut. I did a surgical pathology fellowship at Hartford Hospital in Connecticut. I did a forensic pathology fellowship at the Office of the Medical Investigator in New Mexico, and then I came here to Clark County. I have a medical license to practice in the state of Nevada, and I'm board certified in anatomic pathology and forensic pathology.
And what is forensic pathology?
In general, forensic pathology is a division of pathology overall, and it's a group of physicians that are pathologists who also specialize in doing medical legal death investigations. So, both the medical and some of the legal aspects of investigating why someone has died and the manner in which they have died.
And in your work at the Clark County Medical Examiner's Office, how many autopsies do you think you've conducted over the years?
Probably close to 4,000, 4,500 or so.
And in that capacity, have you been called upon to render an opinion as an expert in the area of forensic pathology?
Yes.
Now, can you just give us a general overview of the process by which an autopsy is conducted at the Clark County Medical Examiner's Office?
In general, the kind of medical legal death investigation begins with the identification of the body itself. And then that body will be called into our office, and then our investigators will triage the call and then determine whether or not the case kind of falls under our jurisdiction. If it does fall under our jurisdiction, then they will go out to do their own investigation of that body as evidence. And during that investigation, they will take photographs, document anything that they see, and then place the body into a body bag. And then that body bag is then transported to our office. Generally, when the body is considered to be in a suspicious circumstance, that body bag may be sealed. And that's when the two eyelets of the body bag come together, and then those eyelet zippers are kind of sealed with a plastic seal through those eyelets, and it's clamped in place. And then generally a photograph is taken of it intact at the scene, and then intact when it arrives into the office. Then we begin what we call kind of a processing of the body, where the body will then be photographed in layers, I like to say, as the body is represented, as it's brought in the body bag. And then if there's any clothing or anything like that, that'll be removed, and then the body will be photographed. And then if the body is dirty in any way, it'll be cleaned, and then the body will be photographed again. And then in that process, any identification of any types of injuries or the like will also be photographically documented. During that process, the forensic technician is usually doing those photographs, and then usually law enforcement may be there simultaneously following us, doing their own photographs at the same time, and gathering any trace evidence that they may need during that process. Likewise, the forensic pathologist may come in during that process and start to observe what's on the body. And then the forensic pathologist will also do kind of a detailed examination of the body externally. And then the process will be to move on to the internal examination, which is classically what people think of as the autopsy process itself.
And at the Clark County Medical Examiner's Office, are case numbers assigned to each autopsy case?
Yes, so each of those cases, as soon as the body is identified and determined to be our jurisdiction, the body will be given a case number, and anything associated with that case and that investigation will be associated with that number, including photographs and any kind of reports.
Okay. And then all reports, I think I heard you say all reports, photographs, radiographs, toxicology, all those reports would be filed essentially under that same case number?
That's correct. So anything associated with the case will be filed under that case number.
Okay. And in your capacity as a medical examiner, have you been called upon to review cases and render opinions based on what you've reviewed in court?
Yes.
Even cases where you weren't the person who performed the autopsy?
Yes.
And is that just because doctors move around, or?
Yeah, some doctors may die, some doctors may retire, some doctors may move to other jurisdictions as well, and you're not able to have them come back in terms of timing to be able to do testimony. So there's often a cause for an in-house doctor to render an opinion on an autopsy case that's been performed by another forensic pathologist. And
is that an unusual circumstance for you to testify on about an autopsy that you didn't personally conduct?
No.
well, let me ask you this. In terms of an autopsy amongst medical examiners, can you explain what's meant by the term anatomical position?
Yes, the anatomical position would be as if the body is standing, if you will, with the feet flat on the floor, the arms are down at the side, and the palms are facing forward. So that would be the anatomical position of the body. Obviously, in most situations, people are more dynamic and they're moving their arms, limbs, and bending their body, so they may not be in that exact position. But in general, the forensic pathologist will use that anatomical position to describe body locations.
And is that used in your field as sort of a reference point in order to describe injuries?
Yes.
And then it would be the reference point for like injuries of like on the left side or right side, that type of thing, or
Yes.
up or down?
Yes, and it would be relative to that individual's left side, that individual's up or down.
Okay. Can you explain, before we start getting into the autopsies in this case, can you explain to the members of jury what soot or stippling is?
Soot is related to the gunpowder that may be present within a projectile as it's coming out of the barrel and then also coming out from the kind of the projectile portion, the jacket portion of the projectile as it's being propelled out of the weapon. So that soot material generally can burn off before that projectile hits a target. But if the projectile and the muzzle of the weapon are close to each other, you have less likelihood that that soot is going to burn off before it reaches the target area. So the closer that the muzzle area is to the actual target, the more likelihood you are to see some soot on that target. The target often being, in my case, the skin surfaces. Likewise, there's also some gunpowder particles that can be in there, again, helping to propel the projectile. And those gunpowder particles, depending on how far apart the muzzle is from the target being the skin, the gunpowder particles may or may not have time to burn off before they reach that point. If the gunpowder particles do not have time to burn off before they impact on the target, then you're going to see what's called stippling, these kind of burn abrasions on the skin surface, because the muzzle has been closer to the target being the skin, such that they haven't had time to burn off before they get there.
Okay, so soot and stippling are artifacts or things that you observe at autopsy in the case of gunshot wound cases?
Correct.
And soot would be just like a closer range shot that you would see maybe on the skin, like a dark staining?
Yes.
And then stippling would be the particles of gunpowder actually burning the skin?
It kind of burns or abrates into the skin and creates what we call stippling.
Okay. Now, how close does the barrel need to be to the skin in order for you to see those things?
It differs depending upon the weapon and depending on the ammunition. So in general, we have general ranges that we can use for most like handguns or rifle type weapons versus shotguns. So in general, when a muzzle is at least 24 inches or so away from the target of the skin, you're not likely to see any of the above. You're not likely to see any soot. You're not likely to see any stippling. As you start to get closer to the skin surface, the skin being the target, you're more likely to see it. So if you have something that's in a contact range, you're more likely to see that soot material deposited either on the skin or within the underlying tissues. And then the further that you get from that, increases or decreases the likelihood of seeing it on that target zone. So as you're closer to the area of the skin, say at least within 6 inches, you're more likely to see that kind of soot area, and you may or may not see that stippling. You're more likely to see it as the closer that you are. And then as you start to pull away from that area and get past into those 24 inches or beyond, you're less likely to see it. Again, it all depends upon the gun and the ammunition that's being used.
Okay, so you typically don't see soot or stippling in cases where the muzzle and the target are 2 feet or greater away?
In general, yes.
Okay, and is there any indication once you get to that 24 inches, 36 and beyond, is there any way to determine distance once you get out of that 2 foot range?
No.
Okay, so if you're beyond that, it's not something that you can look at medically.
No, it's very unlikely that you will. Again, depending upon the gun and the ammunition.
Okay, and so in the closer range, sometimes you'll see soot or stippling on an injury, and that will indicate a closer range.
Yes.
Now, are there things that block the soot or stippling from depositing on the body?
It depends. Somebody may have clothing. If somebody has more substantial hair, for example, those different things can kind of pick up that soot and or those gunpowder particles before it even gets onto the skin surface. So you can have areas where you don't see any if there was some clothing in that area. So you may see a demarcation line, for example, between where stippling is or isn't on the body based on what they might be wearing. Likewise, they could be in an environment where something is blocking them, like a car or a glass or something like that, where you end up going to have an intermediary target that is really going to be struck by the projectile and all of those gunpowder particles and stippling, such that it's not going to hit that individual, even though it's fairly close.
Okay. Now, in preparation for your testimony this afternoon, did we ask you to review materials associated with autopsies of Sharon Randolph and Michael Miller?
Yes.
And did you do what you described earlier, pulling all the case files on both of those autopsies?
Yes.
And you reviewed the photographs, the reports, the toxicology, and anything associated with that?
Yes.
I'd like to talk to you first about the autopsy of Sharon Randolph. And may I approach your honor?
I can grab it. I'm going to show you a series of, well, I'll ask you to look through a series of photographs. This is, that's 250, 251,
Hello.
252, 253, 254, 255, 256, 257, 258, 259, and then one last one, which is not in order, and that's 190.
It's my crown.
Do you recognize all those photographs?
I didn't see the front of them. I saw mostly the
Okay.
back. Yes.
Sorry about that.
Just for the record, we don't have any objections to any of the autopsy photos.
Okay. So it'll be admitted.
And Your Honor, I just would want to advise these are somewhat graphic photos that we're going to see, both of these autopsy photos.
Okay. What are the numbers on those?
It is 250 through, what's that next one there, 259, and then the other one is 190, Your Honor.
I wonder why this.
These are the autopsy photos, these photos may be graphic, I'm just asking you to consider them for their evidentiary value, like we had previously spoken about.
No clue what she said. She talks at 1.75 speed.
Are those some of the photographs taken at the autopsy of Sharon Randolph?
Yes.
And are they a fair and accurate representation of the injury that she suffered?
Yes.
I'm going to put on the overhead first what's been admitted as states 250.
All right, just a warning.
Are you able to see that on your screen, doctor?
I
And
am not.
What, I don't know what they're showing. Just a warning, trigger warning.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at 250, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, what we're seeing in this photograph?
You're seeing in the background the black body bag in which the decedent is. And then you can see the zippers that are part of that body bag. And then through the eyelets is a little blue plastic seal that goes through those eyelets. Additionally, you can see what will become the toe tag that's there, kind of partially attached to that seal area. And then also you'll see a marker that's a gray card. On both the toe tag and the gray card is the Clark County Coroner case number that's associated with this particular case. and likewise the information. So this is when the body arrives into the forensic division, demonstrating that the evidence being the body is intact upon arrival.
Okay, and then so the Clark County case number is that gray card 083898?
Correct.
And I think there's, when we move on to other photographs, but there's a mouse there if you need to be more specific in your direction, in what you're directing. Okay, I'm now putting on the overhead states 251. Let me back up just a little bit. What are we looking at in that photograph?
This is one of the final photos that we take. It's after we've done all of our processing, and we consider this like an identification photo where we've cleaned up the decedent's face, washed them, and then put obviously our case number card next to their face. So we consider this to be an identification photo.
And next I'm putting on the overhead 252. Can you see that, or do you want me to move it any particular way?
I can. So in this case, this is looking at the decedent's right ear and the right side of her head. And obviously there's some blood within the photo. So this is prior to her being cleaned up and prior to the area of injury being shaved. Within that area of her hair is, how do I get it to?
Click on those arrows.
Okay, thank you so much. Is an area of injury within the right parietal scalp that is within the area of her hair.
So is it like in this area on her head, like above her?
Yes, so you can see where the top of her ear is here. And so just like on yourselves, it's up on the side of the head, adjacent to that area of the scalp, if you will, above the ear.
I'm next putting on the overhead states 253.
Welcome,
I did the
Sunshine Sierra.
trash, and then what's?
We're glad to have you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So this is 253. What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is after we've started to clean off some of the blood from that area and before we've kind of reapproximated the wound or even shaved the area. And the wound is fairly large in its perspective here.
And then I think you said that after, or typically what's done is the area of the wound is shaved.
That's correct.
I'm next putting on the overhead states, oh, sorry, 254? Yeah.
She escaped.
Okay, this is 254.
So this is now that we've shaved the area to be able to reveal the details of the wound itself. And this is an entrance gunshot wound to the right parietal scalp area.
And how are you able to tell that this is a gunshot wound? Like what characteristics are you looking at as a medical examiner?
It has some features where it will have an abrasion at one edge. And then when you have a muzzle or a gun that's put up to the surface of the skin, those gases and things that we've kind of referred to already don't have much room to go. And so because of that, they can get underneath the scalp surface and then cause what is called radiating lacerations. And so you'll see some evidence of these lacerations extending out from the wound as well.
Now, are you able to tell if there's soot or stippling in this injury or on this photo?
One of the other photos, and I don't remember which exhibit it is, has a little bit of the fragment of the projectile on it. You can see it within the tissues that's kind of falling out of there.
Okay.
And then also you can see a lot of forensic pathologists will actually take sections of this to be able to look at under the microscope. And Dr. Benjamin did do that on this case and also identified that there was soot there as well. And you can see it in some of the other photographs too. I'm not sure we have those in this particular exhibit.
Okay, let me move on. This is states 255. Is that oriented right, or do you want it a different?
That'll work.
Okay, what are we looking at there?
So here now we've removed the scalp forward and back. So we cut behind the ears and then reflect the scalp forward and back, and then we're able to look at the skull surface. And then in here you can see this portions of the bone has internal beveling, and she has a slight what we call keyhole defect, where you partly see some external beveling associated with it too. So sometimes, depending upon the angle of the projectile as it enters into the skull, you can end up having part of the bone fracture outward and have that external beveling where I have that kind of circle red line or semicircle red line next to. And as well, you can have the internal beveling that you see, which is beveling of the bone inward. The inward occurs as the projectile is going in and kind of pushes inward, and then therefore has like more of a cone-shaped inside into the skull.
So if we were to find pieces of tissue from Sharon Randolph at a crime scene, that wouldn't surprise you given the nature of this injury.
Correct. And as you can see from one of the first exhibits we put up, that a portion of the wound had brain matter coming out of it. And there's actually one of the pictures actually has a small little like metal fragment there that's part of the fragment of the projectile too.
Thank you, NL, for the gifted membership.
Next, I'm putting on the overhead states 256. What are we looking at in that photograph?
We obviously do an examination of the entire body, and so we also do an external examination of the torso areas and then open up the body to examine all of the organs as well. And this is looking at a small contusion or bruise that's on the abdomen, and it's very faint. It's kind of a yellow brown in color, so it's probably an older healing contusion.
And then this is, I'm going to put on states 257.
This is Sharon, yeah.
That's obviously her arm.
Correct. This one doesn't project as well. It's actually a little bit easier to see in the actual photograph, but there is a contusion that's on her forearm as well. Again, a minor contusion.
And this is states 258.
True crime range. That's what I was thinking too. That face he was making.
Again, same thing here. This one doesn't project as well, but there is a minor contusion that's on her knee and non-fatal, just a simple bruise.
And you said a contusion was, it's a bruise?
A contusion is a bruise.
Okay, these are minor, normal bruises that maybe people would have just day-to-day life?
Yes.
I think you said one of them appeared to be healing, so there's no indication that they're, like, they may not be contemporaneous with that. They could be from a day earlier or a couple days before?
Yes.
Okay. I want to put on the overhead next, states 190. That, I would call that an X-ray. What do you call that?
Yes, we do X-rays, radiographs on nearly all of our decedents that come in, particularly those that may be involved in gunshot wound cases. And then this is a lateral X-ray, and it demonstrates the projectile fragments that are retrieved during the autopsy procedure within the radiograph itself. Additionally, you could see some metallic portions of personal effects in the radiograph too. I believe those are maybe some earrings that are there.
Okay.
And in addition, you can also see that there is at least one fracture demonstrated within this radiograph. There are others that were photographed in the autopsy process.
No, those fragments, projectile fragments that you just talked about, those are typically recovered at autopsy?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I'm going to put on the overhead states 259. And what is that?
These are the projectile and the jacket fragments that were recovered during the autopsy procedure.
And obviously this projectile broke apart.
Yes.
Now, in conjunction with the autopsy is a toxicology done on individuals as they present at autopsy.
Yes.
And how, is it a blood draw or how is that done?
Generally, we do it when the body is opened and take blood from the vessels, the veins, particularly within the body cavity.
Okay, and what was her toxicology, if you recall?
It was negative for common drugs of abuse and negative for ethanol.
Okay, so essentially, what was her cause of death?
A gunshot wound of head.
And are you able to give us any sense of trajectory on her injury or how the projectile moved through her body?
Yes, it moved from right to left and upward. There isn't too much deviation, front to back or back to front.
Okay, so sort of across her head.
Yes,
Wow.
And the manner of her death?
a homicide.
Now, if you suffered this type of injury, what would be the effect on the individual immediately? I assume it would be immediately incapacitating. Is that fair?
The injury to the brain is significant, such that someone would be incapacitated nearly immediately. It may take a few seconds or so for the heart to realize that things aren't going well with the brain. But in terms of capabilities, the person would pretty much drop almost instantly.
Okay. And you mentioned that there's some evidence of soot, so there's some indication that it's at closer range.
That's correct.
Now, I'd like to move on to the autopsy of Michael Miller. I'm going to put on the overhead states 260.
This is the one that I'm interested
Dr.
in.
Gavin, is that same sort of identification photo for how his body presented at autopsy?
That's correct. This is again a picture of the body bag in the background, which is black. And then you can't quite see the eyelets as well, but it's the same process where the tag that is blue in this case goes through those eyelets on the body bag, demonstrating that it's sealed in place as it arrives into the forensic office. And then likewise, there is what would become the toe tag there. And both those are also represented in the gray placard is the case number.
Okay, and that's 083899?
Correct.
Okay. Next, I'm going to put 261. Is that same similar like identification photo that you spoke of earlier?
Yes, this is a photo that was taken towards the end of the autopsy process where he's been cleaned up, and then we just have the identification card for the case and then a picture of his face.
Now, Mr. Miller had several gunshot wound injuries. Is that fair?
That's correct.
And they're detailed and they're labeled gunshot wound 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Correct.
The numbering system, does that have any correlation to the actual sequence of how the wounds were inflicted?
No. In general, most forensic pathologists tend to go from the top to the bottom, and so they may number them that way. I don't know exactly if that was Dr. Benjamin's style, but that's definitely what I tried to do, is go from top to bottom.
Okay, so when we talk about gunshot wound injury number 1, we're just identifying a particular injury. We're not saying that's where he was shot first.
Correct.
Okay. So let's look at, this is states 262. What are we looking at there?
So this is after he's been cleaned up, and then you can see 2 gunshot wounds on his head. One of them is here, just in front of the left ear, and then another one is just to the lateral aspect, upper lateral aspect of the left eyebrow.
Okay, and the one closer to his ear has been identified within the reports and all those things as gunshot wound 1?
Correct.
Okay. I'll put on the overhead states 263. Oh, can you?
Oh, yes.
Sorry. Okay. So is that
He's
a closer
constantly
view of
writing.
gunshot wound 1?
Yes.
And when you look at that, you're able to tell that that is an entrance?
Yes.
And what are you noting that makes it an entrance?
There is an abrasion collar at the edge of the wound, And abrasion is like a scrape. So as a projectile is entering into the skin surface, it's going to scrape along the skin surface and create an abrasion collar on that area of the skin where it enters. As a projectile exits the body, it's going to tear out of the body and generate what's commonly a laceration. So a tear in the skin as it's exiting. So you may see the abrasion as it's entering and then a laceration as it's exiting. Sometimes on the exit, you will also have an associated contusion in that area because it's kind of slamming into that area, if you will, and then lacerating outward.
I'm going to put on the overhead states 264. Is that a closer view of the entrance for gunshot wound 1?
Yes, and if you'll notice, we remove the placard when we do these close-up shots because the camera will tend to focus on the placard instead of focusing on the wound itself. But you always see that perspective shot beforehand, which we represented here. So you'll have a perspective shot with our placard with the case number, and then the close-up will be demonstrated shortly thereafter in sequence with the wound itself. And then here, this actually gives you a better representation of what I represented as the abrasion area in previous description.
Okay. Can you clear that? Yep, thank you. This is states 265. What are we looking at in that photograph?
We're looking at the top of his head, and to the left upper lateral aspect of the eyebrow is that second entrance gunshot wound. You can't see the one that's near the left ear that we're currently talking about. However, what you can see towards above the right eyebrow and towards the front is what will be the exit gunshot wound that's on the right frontal scalp area. And the quality of this, again, is that laceration quality that I described as a part of an exit wound's features.
This is states 266. Should I put it that way or?
I think that's better for orientation.
Okay.
For the
And that is this is a closer view of that exit?
Yes. So the photographer originally took the picture from the other direction, but this is now just flipped around, and this is that same wound, and it's the exit gunshot wound.
And looking at this, how are you able to tell that it's an exit wound injury?
It has that laceration, and it's without that abrasion. And in addition, it doesn't project as well in this particular picture, but it does on the actual photograph there, where you have a little bit of contusion around it as well.
I'm going to put on the overhead 267. Yeah, I guess it would be this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a closer view?
Correct. And then again, that's the laceration for the exit wound. Again, the placard has been removed for the close-up shot.
Okay. So this is all what we've been discussing is gunshot wound 1, the one that entered around, well, actually I should say left ear.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm going to put on the overhead states 268. And what is that?
During the course of the autopsy procedure, we'll sometimes use probes to demonstrate trajectory through the body. Again, the body in the anatomical position. We don't know where the head was moving or how it was moving in the dynamicness of the situation, but relative to the anatomical position of the body, this helps demonstrate the trajectory of this particular wound, which is going from left to right, and it's somewhat upward in terms of the trajectory on this one, but that's looking at the body anatomically as it lays there.
Okay, so looking at this exhibit, the entrance this is the entrance on the left, sort of near the left ear as we saw earlier?
That's correct.
And then it traveled, and then this is the exit that's sort of the right upper forehead?
Correct.
Okay, so I would assume then you would agree that this injury or this projectile traveled left to right?
That's correct.
Any
to right upper
deviation
forehead
on front to back or?
It's in an upward trajectory as it's coming from this kind of right ear location and heading up towards the body. There is a minimal amount of deviation in the front to back direction, but it's small. It's predominantly left to right in an upwards kind of angle.
Okay. And where did this travel in his head? Like what damage did it do?
So this enters in on the left side and ends up entering into the left parietal area and hits into portions of the left parietal bone and the left frontal bone, and then also, left frontal lobe and the right frontal lobe, and then exits out that right front area.
And would this wound be independently fatal?
Yes, that's goes right through the brain matter.
Okay. And any, well, if someone suffered this type of injury, would it, cause them to drop to the ground, or what do you think would happen to them?
Some people can go longer seconds with these types of injuries because it's mostly across those frontal lobes, but they're going to be pretty well incapacitated, unlike the previous one that we discussed that kind of goes through the middle portion of the brain.
I'm going to put back on the overhead states 262.
So that one is through. Here, I'll use my crown.
I think earlier in your testimony you said there's
Through
another
here,
gunshot
going this
wound of entrance on this photograph.
Correct.
From here to here.
And can you just orient the jurors a little bit, please?
The second gunshot wound about which we're speaking is the one that's on the lateral aspect of the left eyebrow, just above it.
Okay. And again, we're not suggesting sequence. We're just going in order that the wounds were labeled.
Correct.
Okay. So this is another entrance wound on the left-hand side, but higher up on his head.
Correct.
I'm putting on the overhead states 269. Is that a closer view of that entrance wound?
Yes. And this also has the abrasion collar that you can see at the edge of the wound as an entrance gunshot wound feature.
Okay. This one that was at the, I should do it on the left side, on the left forehead. Where did it travel?
This wound actually ends up, or this gunshot path ends up going from that front area through a portion of the frontal bone, through the back portion of the left orbit, and then goes through the maxilla, ends up going through into the, so your maxilla is the upper part, your roof of your mouth, then goes through that and goes and lacerates the tongue.
Wow.
And then comes out through the anterior aspect of the muscle and soft tissues of the neck, and then exits there.
Okay. So it enters on the left side of his forehead, essentially?
Yeah.
And then exits
Right here.
on sort of the right side at his neck?
Yes,
So a really steep angle?
correct.
I'm putting on the overhead states 270. What is depicted in that photograph?
You can see this is his chin is sort of in the, as you're looking at the photo, the upper right corner of this particular photograph. And then you can see sort of where the clavicles are coming together. You could see more of his right clavicle towards the right lower portion of this photo. So you're kind of in that anterior aspect of the neck and more towards the right side of the neck as well. And here you have an exit gunshot wound. Again, that's a laceration that's present. Can you shift the photograph up just a little
Sure.
bit, please?
Oh, I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. Sorry about that. Is that better?
Yes, please. So here is the exit wound that's towards the right anterior aspect of his neck. And then you can look down just below his clavicle here, and there is a contusion, a bruise in that area. In my opinion, that the projectile came downward and then exited and then hit right into that area on the chest.
Okay. And then that was the one that,
Wow.
this is 2 that starts on the left forehead and comes out his neck. And then you're saying it probably hit his chest.
Yes.
You mentioned that it kind of goes, you said maxilla, I would assume that means his mouth or?
Yes, the
Okay.
roof of the mouth.
And it lacerates the tongue?
Correct.
So it's kind of like really in the front part of his face or head?
Yes, towards the front portion of his head.
Okay. Would this injury be immediately incapacitating?
It's unlikely that this injury alone would be immediately incapacitating, other than the blood that would be present in the mouth, and then he may have some concussive injury from the impact to the head portion.
Okay. So let's talk about gunshot wound 3. I'm going to put on the overhead states 273. Does that depict it? Is that yes?
That's good. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. My apologies. Yes.
Can you kind of orient the jury on, I assume his head would be at the top of the, top of the image?
Correct. At the top of the image would be his head. You can actually see the nipples for an orientation, and towards the lower portion of the photograph, you could see his umbilicus, his belly button, to help you orient where you are on the torso, the portion of the torso. So towards the left upper quadrant of the abdomen is an entrance gunshot wound, which is located here.
Okay. And where does that one travel?
That one travels somewhat superficially through the body, and that it goes into the cavity and then goes along the surface underneath the sternum and goes across the pericardial sac and across the heart, and then ends up exiting above that. It didn't curve. I'm sorry, I moved the wands that way.
I'll put on the overhead states 272.
Oh, my apologies.
I think I did it too fast. Sorry. Does that show the exit of gunshot wound 3?
Yes.
And can you point that out to the members of the jury?
In this case, you'll have the right nipple for orientation, similar to what you saw in the previous photograph. And then just a little bit to the center of the chest is where the exit gunshot wound is. Above that, to the right, near where that collarbone is, was that other contusion that I showed you from that previous wound path that we had seen. But the exit for this one that starts in the left upper quadrant of the abdomen, and I said goes underneath the sternum, goes across the heart, will exit in this area towards the center chest.
So this particular injury, 3, started in his left abdomen lower part?
Yes.
And then went up, right?
Correct. So this goes from left to right and mostly upward without much deviation front or back.
Okay. And would this injury, I think you described it causing damage to his heart?
Yes.
Would this injury be independently fatal?
Yes, this injury can be fatal. Although I've seen people where they've been shot in their heart and they are able to move afterwards for some period of time and then will collapse.
Was there any soot or stippling or anything like that associated with this injury?
None identified in the photographs or documented report.
Okay. I think we'll move to
Thank you, Nikki.
gunshot wound 4. And I'm going to put on the overhead states 277.
She'll be our emotional support dog.
Do you want me to, is it that way?
Either is fine.
Okay. What are we looking at in that photograph?
This is the left side of his body. You can see on the right aspect of this photograph where you have his axilla, his left armpit area. And then on the left lateral aspect of his chest, there's an entrance gunshot wound. And you can see that here.
Okay. Now, on this particular injury, is there an associated exit wound?
No.
Where does this projectile travel in his body?
This projectile goes from left to right across his body, and it's kind of minimal deviation. It goes through his stomach and also goes through a portion of his liver, and then kind of goes into his what we call the retroperitoneum, which is the back portion, soft tissues within the body, so inside the body cavity, and then comes to rest sort of in the back muscles. So there's a little bit of that kind of front to back, but it's minimal within that body space area.
What about any deviation of upward or downward in relation to anatomical position?
Anatomically, this goes a little downward.
Okay, so sort of starting on the left armpit area and then maybe slightly downward?
Correct.
And then that projectile would have been recovered at autopsy?
Correct.
I'm putting on the overhead states 279. What is that?
This is the projectile recovered from that womb path.
Okay, so we're on the fourth gunshot wound. All of them have had exits except for this one. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and this was the projectile recovered from the one that starts in sort of like underneath his armpit?
Yes, on the left lateral aspect of his chest.
Okay, and this one, you said it lacerated the liver and stomach?
Correct.
And so would it be independently fatal?
It will be. They may live a little bit longer with this particular wound in isolation.
Lastly, I'm going to talk about gunshot wound 5. This is states 280. Well, we can see 4 still in this image. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then there's another gunshot wound depicted as well?
Yes.
And can you point that out to the members of the jury, please?
There is a gunshot wound near the left elbow. That's an entrance gunshot wound. And you can see this is somewhat near to where that gunshot wound was of the left lateral aspect of the chest, which is down here.
And this one, so this one sort of enters at the back of his arm near the elbow. Is that fair?
Yes. And remember when we mentioned the anatomical position is like the person standing with their feet flat and their arms at the side of their bodies with their palms facing forward. So in that case, that this elbow would be considered in the back of the body. So it would be backwards area as in terms of anatomical description.
And was there an exit wound associated with this injury?
Yes.
I'm going to put on the overhead states 282.
If it happened how Thami said, it would have been right to left, not all these left to right.
Can you point out the exit wound?
Yeah, so now this is his forearm kind of flipped forward, more towards the anatomical position about which we've been speaking. And then on that left forearm area is a laceration exit gunshot wound. This actually does have a little bit of abrasion associated with it, and some people would describe this as a shored exit wound. As a shored exit wound means that it has qualities of laceration as well as abrasion. The reason you see that combination is if that exit wound area is pressed up against a surface. So as the bullet projectile is trying to get out of the body, is going to tear out of the body, but it's also going to have the skin surface get scraped against whatever area that is. So it may be that this area of the body was up against the torso surface. So it may be that the arm was against the torso. And that's why you see this different kind of quality to this particular exit wound.
Now, would this injury have caused like a fracture to the bones in his arm?
Yes, you can see the forearm looks a little odd in terms of the way that it's laying there. So there's a fracture at the distal portion of the left humerus, which is your upper arm bone, and also a fracture to the proximal ulna, which is one of the bones that's in your forearm.
And again, no soot or stippling associated with it?
Correct, none.
And given the nature of this injury, I wouldn't think it would be fatal, but what is your assessment?
This injury on its own is less likely to be fatal because you have mostly fractured bones. However, you can have other things that can result from wounds like infections and things like that too.
Now, in terms of all of the gunshot wounds, were all of the entrances on the left side of the body?
Yes.
And there was only one with a projectile inside the body remaining,
Correct.
and that was gunshot wound 3.
Correct.
Mayor Pro Turner?
No, I believe that was gunshot wound 4 because.
Oh, sorry.
My apologies. Number 3 is the one that's in the left upper quadrant and then goes upwards and then exits out the center of the chest. And number 4 is that left lateral one. So it's number 4.
Okay, and I misspoke. I apologize. Thanks for correcting me. Dr. Gavin, I'm showing you what's been marked as state's proposed 289. Do you recognize this image?
Yes.
Is that an image that Mr. Hamner and I showed you a couple of weeks before trial?
Yes.
And when we met with you, did we ask you if those arrows accurately depicted the directionality of the gunshot wound injuries on Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And did we ask you if they accurately
Is it just me, or is it 4 o'clock every day that the aliens come? Is it 4 o'clock every day?
Directionality and location from what you reviewed of the autopsy of Mr. Miller?
The only thing I might change is where that contusion and exit is on the upper right anterior aspect of the chest.
Okay.
This wound that's in the left upper quadrant comes more medial to where that contusion is on the anterior aspect of the chest.
Okay. Can you do that with the alter it with my pen, or can I kind of write the directionality that you changed?
I guess 4 o'clock my time. Isn't it about the same time every single day that this does that?
Okay. Other than, or with that alteration, is it a fair and accurate depiction of the location of his injuries, the trajectory, and how he presented at autopsy?
Yes.
State moves to admit 289.
8 more likes to get Lucy back. Thami. I don't like that he's so into this. It is, isn't it? I'm gonna go back and look at the other streams. I swear, I think it's just about every single day at the exact same time that everything just kicks me off. Get my tinfoil hat. What about my crown? It's the color of tinfoil. Oh, Thami. Shut up, Thami. Oh, we're at 400 likes. You get Lucy back. I don't like how he's fallen asleep in the afternoons, except for right now. He's all into this right now. It's when he went 4 o'clock, man. That's like the time. That's meds time, alien time. I don't like his face looking. His face is infuriating. I do the same thing. I am not a fan. Not a fan. And I don't even know what he could possibly be taking notes on. Okay, but I hope they show us this diagram. The way that he said it happened in the hall when he started shooting and he just kept shooting was not that goes against everything that the medical examiner is saying everything coming from left to right, not right to left, and not from the back. Left to right. That's huge. That's totally different than what he said. Because you think about it, think about where Mike Miller's body was in that garage. For Thami to be on the left side of him to shoot, it would have to be, I need one of those recreations that people make. Thami looking at his notes. Ugh.
The court is going to reserve ruling on the admission of Exhibit 289.
So Dr. Gavin, looking at 289, there are 5 arrows. Is that fair?
Yes.
Can you, with my pen, indicate which one is gunshot wound 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Yes. With the Roman numerals, or
Or just regular numbers?
Yeah, even if he was coming down the hallway and then out,
So-
like he said, it would be right and back, not left.
I'm reading your markings correct. And again, this isn't in sequence. The first gunshot wound enters around his left ear and goes out the right forehead.
yes,
The second one you describe enters the left forehead and goes out his neck
correct,
tending to the right side.
correct.
So those are sort of opposite exit points,
Yes,
like one's up and one's down.
yes,
Okay. And then gunshot wound 3 starts on the left abdomen and comes out the right side of his chest,
more towards the center of the chest.
more towards the center. And then gunshot wound 4 starts on the left, kind of underneath his armpit.
Yes,
And that's the one that doesn't exit.
correct.
And then gunshot wound 5 is the one that enters
Oh,
at the back, or what I would call the back of his left elbow.
Yes,
Okay, so they're going in varying directions.
yes.
The state would move to admit 289.
Based on the admission of Exhibit 289, the court is going to reserve ruling.
Okay. Now, in association with the autopsy of Mr. Miller, was toxicology done on him as well?
Yes.
And what were the findings?
He had benzylecgonine in his system, which is a cocaine metabolite.
And from the toxicology reading, are you able, as a forensic pathologist, to give us some time frame of when that cocaine might have been ingested?
No, I don't know when he ingested that.
Okay. Does the finding indicate that it's active, or?
That's an inactive metabolite of cocaine.
And so does that mean, I would assume that he didn't just ingest it prior to death. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Is there any kind of time frame on that metabolite? I mean, could it be like he ingested an hour before, or is that something you can't estimate from the toxicology?
In general, it can be hours for them to metabolize it by certain half-lives, but I don't know what his rate of metabolism would be, and I don't know what his usage would be.
Okay, but it's only the metabolite that's present in the blood?
Correct.
Okay, so when you say you ingested cocaine and then immediately were shot, would you see the metabolite, or would you see like active cocaine?
People after they've died don't do not continue to metabolize drugs. So you're looking at more of a representation of what he has in his system at the time or close to the time of his death.
And so his is though the metabolite.
Yes.
Do you have, did you reach a conclusion regarding the cause of death of Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And what is that?
Multiple gunshot wounds.
And did you reach a conclusion regarding the manner of death?
Yes.
And what is that?
Homicide.
Thank you. I will pass the witness, Your Honor.
Here we go.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
You didn't perform any of the functions of the autopsy for either Sharon Randolph or Mike Miller, right?
That's correct.
In fact, you had access under those file numbers that we saw in the photographs, unique to that individual autopsy, so you can go back and read the report that was prepared at the time of autopsy, yes?
Yes.
That.
And you did that in this case?
Yes.
And those autopsies were performed by Dr. Benjamins?
Correct.
Okay. Corresponding with those reports are also the photographs that you mentioned.
Correct.
And you feel that you had an opportunity to review sufficiently the notes that were taken, the autopsy report, the file in its totality, including photographs, that you can render the opinions you just did.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to talk to you about a couple things you said on direct examination. You said one of the things that happens in a case of a suspicious death is the way the body bag is sealed up. Remember that?
Yes.
When you say suspicious death, almost every gunshot wound is going to qualify, right?
Correct.
As opposed to natural causes, I'm 100 years old and I die in my sleep.
Correct.
So anytime someone is shot and killed in a violent act, that bag would be sealed up.
Yes.
And the reason you do that is because it's imperative that you review the body in as best possible in the shape it is at the time it's located.
Correct.
For forensic reasons, right?
Correct.
For medical reasons, right?
Yes.
To be accurate, correct?
Yes.
For instance, if a body was discovered where someone had been shot and you didn't preserve it, you threw it in the back of a pickup truck and drove around town with it all day, carried it into the coroner's office, autopsy might not be as accurate.
There could possibly be that. Yes.
Okay, you don't want to contaminate the work that you're going to do. Agree?
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned a couple terms on direct examination, and I just want to make sure that it's clear for the jury. When you talk about the body itself and the injuries that that body sustained, you do it in the traditional anatomic position, right?
That's correct.
You would agree with me that we as human beings, you as you came in here to testify, and me as I'm asking you questions, and the jurors as they're seated in the box, almost are never in an actual anatomic position.
Yes.
It is feet flat on the ground, right?
Correct.
And the palms at the side extended forward.
Correct.
I mean, I'd look pretty weird if I was standing like that on the street.
You look weird
Yeah,
anyway,
helps your
Josh.
Face forward too.
Right, I have to be completely straight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You indicated that you do that so that you can accurately identify both exteriorly and interiorly the wounds, the defects, the medical incidents that cause a death that you're investigating, right?
It's helps us with where anatomical locations are, and then to be able to have a consistent way and to describe those to others. And that's the majority of the reasoning. Also, it helps when you're describing things like trajectories that we've been describing too.
Right. In the anatomical position, for instance, as it relates to wound number 3 on Mr. Miller, you could say left upper quadrant of abdomen, and any pathologist reading that's going to know where it's at.
Right.
Okay. You also used a term a couple times on direct examination. You said a dynamic situation. Do you remember that?
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
If you have people moving around or any type of altercation that's going on, people are going to be moving. And just as counselor said, that your body isn't going to stay in that exact position during that interaction between those individuals.
And you would agree with me as a pathologist, it's almost impossible to tell in what position a body was at the time it was shot.
Almost, but there are conditions that you can infer what's going on based on what you have for injury.
Right. You agree it's almost impossible to tell the position a body is in at the time it's struck by a gunshot.
Yes, almost.
And you certainly aren't trying to indicate to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how either Sharon Randolph or Mike Miller were standing or positioned at the time of any one of these gunshot wounds, right?
That's correct.
Okay. You also indicated that you can't provide any ordering of shots. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
When you have a situation as you did with Mr. Miller's autopsy, the fact that he had 5 separate gunshot wounds, presumably at or near the time of one another, you can't tell us if any one of those came before or after any of the others.
Correct.
In Ms. Randolph's case, it's a little bit different because you have 1 gunshot wound.
Correct.
All right. I want to talk to you real quickly about the autopsy of Ms. Randolph, okay? Single gunshot wound essentially above and slightly behind her ear. Is that right?
Yes.
Would you describe that as a contact wound?
Yes.
What do you mean by a contact wound?
For her, she has both the radiating lacerations and she has some soot within that wound as well. So the muzzle is either adjacent to or on the skin surface itself.
Okay, so at the time Mike Miller puts the gun to Sharon Randolph's head and pulls the trigger, it's touching her head.
Yes.
That wound almost always would be immediately incapacitating.
Yes.
Meaning she would drop instantly, right?
Yes.
Not be able to stand. Right?
Yes.
Wouldn't be able to crawl, yell, respond, things like that.
Correct.
And that wound would almost always be fatal.
Yes.
With very rare exception, the type of injury she sustained, she cannot survive from.
Right.
In the external examination of a body at autopsy, when you're going head to toe and looking around the exterior, you identify characteristics that are unique to that person, right?
In general, yes.
If they have obvious scars, for instance, you would notate that.
Yes.
And you would notate things like tattoos, correct?
Yes.
In fact, in this case, in reviewing the file and the photographs, you were able to notate a number of tattoos on Ms. Randolph's body. Is that right?
I don't recall where hers are specifically.
Is it in your report?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of it with you?
Yes.
We're referring to that report, refresh your recollection about the location and substance of her tattoos.
More likely than not, yes.
If you could take a minute and do that, just so it's clear.
He drives me nuts with this whole thing with the tattoos, with her tattoo. He wants everybody to know that Sharon had TR in a special place. And that's really nobody else's business. And he needs to stop that. Ugh. He compares it to, because she also had Colleen's name and Nicholas's name, her grandson. So he's comparing it like, oh, well, see, she loved him just as much as them. No,
Okay.
That's why she hid it.
As I look at it's page 3 of the report authored by Dr. Benjamin, there's an area called identifying marks.
Correct.
And you've had an opportunity to review that.
Yes.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what tattoo she had?
Objection, relevance?
Thank you. Objection. Josh is annoying. It drives me nuts. And I feel like this is coming directly from Thami. Because I could see this, again, I could see this being something that Thami's like, well, she had Colleen and Nicholas, and then she needed mine. She loves me so much. She wanted my stupid initials on her body. Well, you know why she did their names and your initials, Thami? You know why she put their names where you could see them and she hid your initials, Thami? Initials are easier to cover, and nobody's going to see them anyway. Thami. Blech. Blech. What else could TR stand for? Let's free Sharon's tattoo. What else could it stand for? Something better than him.
She has what's described as a sunburst tattoo that is located on the lateral left upper arm, and below that is inscribed Colleen, and also inscribed next to it or above it is Nicholas. She has a design tattoo on her right forearm that's near the wrist. She has a heart tattoo on her right labia majora. She has a tattoo within that's labeled TR for initials TR. And then on her right leg, she also has a central red heart, a centered red heart. And then there is a black design within that heart. And then on the lateral left leg, she also has a black scorpion tattoo with a red stinger.
Okay. The significance of those may not mean anything to you, but certainly significant at the time of
Look at him
autopsy to
smirking.
notate those
Ugh.
identifying characteristics.
Yes.
Okay. And that's done in every autopsy.
Some doctors do, and some doctors just say refer to the photographs.
Okay. Dr. Benjamin always does, right?
I don't know if she always does, but she did there.
Okay. Sharon had nothing in her system in the way of illicit substances. She wasn't drugged. She wasn't under the influence of alcohol at the time of her death. She had a clean tox, right?
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you then about Mr. Miller's autopsy. The state asked you a bunch of questions about the directionality of the separate listed gunshot wounds that were sustained by Mr. Miller.
Yes.
You would agree with me, as you said before, that you can't tell us whether one came before another, right?
Correct.
And you can't tell us without knowing a lot more information about how those wounds were inflicted, right?
How? What do you mean by how?
For instance, the state asked you, there was an entrance wound. It's referred to as gunshot wound number 2 in the report on the left side of the forehead. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And that had an exit wound at the right anterior neck, correct?
Yes.
Anterior meaning front.
Yes.
The question was asked by Ms. Weckerly. That's a very steep angle, right?
Yes.
Without knowing where and in what position the gun was fired and in where and what position Mr. Miller was, you can't tell us how that gunshot wound happened, right?
In terms of the steep angle per se?
Right.
Correct. I was interpreting steep angle based on the anatomical position of the body.
Right. And I'm just going to give you a couple maybe silly examples. If I'm standing here and someone's standing directly above me on the second floor and there's an opening, they could shoot directly down on top of my head and make that wound, right?
Yes.
Likewise, if you were shooting me and I was bent over at the waist, that could cause the same wound, right?
Yes.
Also, the position of the person pulling the trigger would be relevant too, right?
Correct.
You'd have to know that information in order to say how those wounds were inflicted.
Correct.
And there's nothing about your review of Dr. Benjamin's autopsy, the photograph, or the report, which would give you the ability to do that, right?
The ability to know where each individual is positioned
Right.
during the interaction. No, that's correct.
And it would be pure speculation for you to try to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the terms perforating and penetrating gunshot wounds? Can you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what those terms mean?
Penetrating gunshot wound is a gunshot wound that's entered into the body, and generally you're recovering something in there that's penetrated into the body, versus a perforating gunshot wound that's gone through and through the body.
Okay, so when we talk about the separate gunshot wounds as they relate to Mr. Miller, you've got 4 separate perforating wounds, right?
Correct.
Wounds with an entrance and an exit, correct?
Correct.
And you've got a singular penetrating wound, right?
Correct.
That's a wound with an entrance and no exit.
Correct.
As it relates to Miss Randolph, what type of wound did she have?
She essentially has a penetrating gunshot wound.
meaning that there's an entrance wound, right?
Correct.
And in fact, there was the projectile and then a fragment from that projectile recovered at the time of autopsy.
Yes.
The state elicited at the end of direct examination the results of the toxicology test of Mr. Miller. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You would agree with me that if someone ingests cocaine, over time, it breaks down into a metabolite, right?
Correct.
How quickly that breakdown happens is dependent on a number of factors within that person and the thing that they're ingesting, right?
Yes.
You can't tell us as a result of that toxicology report whether Mr. Miller had ingested a whole lot of cocaine that morning, right?
Correct.
Or a little bit not too long before the incident. Right?
Correct.
What you can tell us as a result of the toxicology that's done is that he had ingested cocaine, right?
Correct.
And it was in his system in some form at the time of his death.
Correct.
You also don't have any information about how the ingestion of cocaine would affect him, right?
True.
Would affect his decision making, correct?
Correct.
His motor skills,
Correct.
the way he would behave under its influence.
We do have some references to these things in terms of what these drugs do to people, but I don't know how he's behaving relative to that.
Precisely my point. You can tell us, as you said before, he had ingested it, it's breaking down in the system, but you don't know at the time of his death what the influence on him may be.
That's correct.
Sit down,
At the
Josh.
time of autopsy, are individuals weighed and measured?
Yes.
And were both of these individuals weighed and measured?
Yes.
Could you tell us the height and weight of both Miss Randolph and Mr. Miller?
Ms. Randolph is about 194 pounds and about 70 inches in length. And then Mr. Miller is about 134 pounds and roughly about 70 inches in length.
Courts and buildings. In terms of feet and inches, how tall is 70 inches?
It's not quite 6 feet, but we also measure the length of the body. And so when the body's laying flat, it won't exactly be what might be on your driver's license per se, because you're more relaxed in those positions. So it tends to be a little bit longer than what would be, say, on your driver's license.
Okay.
So Mr. Tomczak asked you about the cocaine metabolite in Mr. Miller's toxicology report. Was there any active cocaine in his tox?
No.
So it was all metabolite.
Yeah, it's a benzoylecgonine.
Okay. Why at autopsy is trajectory noted or memorialized?
It's to help with where, if you're able to kind of reconstruct the scene, where the individuals might be relative to the gun and the target being the individual that's struck. So it's one of the ways in which you can talk about the body again in the anatomical position and see relative to perhaps even scene reconstruction where those weapons might be within that environment. It's to assist in some of that aspect, but it's also to try to look at the areas of injury within the body itself.
Okay. And so for a forensic pathologist, sort of your lane in this investigation is this is how trajectory presented at autopsy given the anatomical position.
That's correct.
And how that may or may not fit in with a crime scene is sort of left to someone else. You are just looking at it anatomical position at autopsy.
That's correct.
But it is information and
Thank
data
you.
that's collected because it could be relevant in a particular case.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Tomczak spent some time talking about tattoos on Mrs. Randolph. And I think you said that some doctors don't even note what the tattoos are. They just say like, see the photographs, correct?
Correct.
Tattoos could be relevant in identifying an individual that maybe had no like personal identification on them. Like say you came upon someone, who didn't have any personal effects or any means of identification.
Yes, many people now are identified either through someone visualizing that body and saying that is so-and-so, whoever that individual is. Then you can also look at fingerprint identification. You can also look at radiograph comparison. You can look at dental comparison if you have a dentist that they had in life to demonstrate similarities in that. And then, of course, you can get into DNA. So we have a lot of kind of modern ways in which to do that. Tattoos, in terms of representation, they're identifiers for individuals, but they may not be the sole reason in which we identify that particular decedent. We tend to go for more of the scientific ways of doing it, particularly because people may have the same tattoo or a similar tattoo or something like that. Tattoos can be very useful when you end up with body parts or situations where you have body parts and those parts have a tattoo. So that may help you in terms of trying to figure out who that body part may belong to, and they can become very useful for that. So they're not always something that is used definitively as a scientific way in which to identify an individual.
And in this case, with regard to Mrs. Randolph's tattoos, do they have any medical significance?
In my opinion, they're just markings for that individual, not relevant to her identification in this case.
Okay, and they certainly don't relate to her cause of death?
Correct.
Don't relate to her manner of death?
Correct.
And would they be reflective of her state of mind, or could you even make that type of conclusion?
That would be speculative.
Okay, we don't know when she got the tattoos.
I don't know.
There's no way of medically determining that as she presented at autopsy.
Correct.
Lastly, the
She's
bullet
good.
that was recovered at autopsy with Mrs. Randolph, that wasn't an intact bullet, right? It was fragmented.
That's correct. It was fragmented itself and also fragmented from the jacket.
Okay. Thank you. And we will keep Dr. Gavin subject to recall, Your Honor, from the state's perspective.
Just real quick. The state asked you some questions about trajectory and why that may be important in an investigation. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
It may be that the trajectory could be relevant to some other part of an investigation that has nothing to do with the autopsy, right?
That's correct.
Your job at autopsy is to document as completely as possible all of the information available, right?
Yes.
And for instance, a gunshot wound like number 5, the one to Mr. Miller's elbow, you can tell us there's a wound to the elbow and this is the direction it traveled, right?
Anatomically, the direction it traveled.
Right. You can't tell us from an injury like that whether the person was shot from in front or behind, however, right?
Yes, because you don't know where that arm is relative to the time and the space in their environment.
Because the arm of a person can move a lot in a dynamic situation.
Yes.
And in a case where there's a number of wounds like Mr. Miller sustained that aren't immediately incapacitating, that arm could move all over the place, right?
It's possible that it's mobile, if you will.
So he could have been shot in that elbow from behind, right?
Possible.
He could have been shot with his elbow in front, right?
Possible.
He could have been shot turned to the right in that elbow, right?
Correct.
It's like
In
he's
my
doing
opinion,
choreography.
It's probably closer to the body based on the exit wound.
Right. And he could have been turned to the left with his arm close to the body as well, right?
Yes.
You can't tell us anything about that other than what you previously testified to.
Correct.
Okay. Likewise, tattoos could be relevant to some other part of an investigation that you just don't know about, right?
Possible.
God.
You wouldn't know that, right?
No, not unless it's been informed to me.
Right. As a medical examiner, a forensic pathologist, someone conducting an autopsy, you would document the medically important things, right?
Correct.
And there may very well be something on that body that's relevant somewhere else that you just don't know.
It depends on what you're talking about, the medical legal death investigation portion of it. So it's just beyond some of that medical only, and there's that medical legal, and you need that investigation piece to be able to put those pieces together.
Precisely my point. You would agree with that, right?
Yes.
Nothing else.
No follow-up. Do the ladies and jury have any questions for this witness? Did you write a question on a full sheet of paper? Is there anything that you're?
I love jury questions. I just, bleh. The tattoo thing just makes me so mad. And it's like, okay, let's talk about the tattoos since Joshie is insistent on talking about Sharon's labia. The tattoos that Sharon had, it's a sunburst on her arm with Colleen's name and then Nicholas's name. It's visible. It's sun. They are her son. You know where she got his stupid initials? Where the sun don't shine. That's where she got those. Write that in your notes, Thami. I just don't. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Both Mike and Sharon's date of death was 5/9/2008, and time of death was 2:05. Is that when the coroner received them, or their actual time of death?
When our investigators go to the scene, they are able to pronounce death. And so when they view the bodies, they will pronounce death. And that tends to be the date and time that they put into that area. So they are allowed to pronounce death, and say like a clinician at the hospital will be able to pronounce death. So even though other medical personnel may be there, it's just the coroner investigator that's allowed to pronounce.
Was there any soot found on the number 1 and number 2 entrance wounds?
I assume from the male for that one. Yeah, assuming it's from the male, since he has more than one shot, there is none.
Okay, state any follow-up based on the jury question.
Yes, if the coroner investigator finds a decomposed body, the date and time of death will be the time they found it, right?
That's correct.
So it doesn't actually relate like this is the exact time of death. It's just when the investigator pronounces death.
That's correct. So it could be a skeleton in the desert, and they'll pronounce at the time that they identify the body.
Thank you.
Any follow-up?
Yeah, just as it relates to that issue, when someone is found following, for instance, a 911 call on a shooting, the coroner investigator responds to that location, right?
Correct.
And at that location, there are law enforcement personnel there, right?
Correct.
The coroner investigator physically goes into the scene to pronounce death, right?
Right. When it's cleared.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have any further questions for this witness? Okay, seeing no response, Dr. Devin, you are excused. Thank you very much for your testimony here today.
Good job, doctor. You did great.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are going to take our afternoon recess. During this recess, you must not discuss or communicate with anyone, including fellow jurors, in any way regarding this case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. You must not read, watch, listen, news, or media accounts or commentary about this case. You must not do any research, such as consulting dictionary, using the internet, or using reference materials. You must not make any investigation, testify in the case, recreate an aspect of the case, or in any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own. You must not form or express any opinion regarding this case until it's finally submitted to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 2:35. We will be in recess until 2:50.
All rise for the jury.
Man, they drive me nuts. Okay, so no, just a break. They didn't start till 1:00 their time today, so they're not doing, I don't think they're gonna be doing like a lunch break today. All right, so let's look at those. Let's try to work this out. Wound number 1. And not in the order, just the order that they put them. Entrance near, this is my right. This is my left. Hello, left. Entrance near left ear and right out of the frontal scalp. So shot from like here. One was like top of the head, like the upper lateral eyebrow. And it went like straight down and entered or exited out of the neck by the clavicle. So we got one here. One here that's like here. One here that's like here. This is like crazy. And then let's draw. Not that I'm trying to play Pictionary with a body, but she's like, why are you moving? Why are you talking? Okay. We're going to give him skivvies. We're not going to make him anatomically whatever. Okay. Here's Mike Miller. I do feel like we're playing Pictionary. All right. So one entered. Oh, he needs ears. We got to tell where the ears are. And he needs verdict eyebrows. Okay. Well, he's got to have nipples now because he's can't have verdict eyebrows without nipples. All right, there we go. All right, so entrance near the left ear. And then that one was out through the right frontal scalp. So there's one. There was top of head, left upper lateral eyebrow. And that's the one that went through, like through his tongue and stuff. Oof. Out his chest. Then left upper quad of abdomen entrance. Okay, left upper quad of abdomen entrance. Exit through body, across the heart, enter. Oh gosh. And then exits central chest. I mean, they're like all over. This is really weird. And wound number 5 was in the elbow. But it didn't. Right? Wait. Hold on. Where were we at? That was number 3. Oh, we're at number 4. Lateral chest. Oh, the one that went through. Left chest had no exit. And then And then there was the elbow. Where'd the elbow one come out at? When you do anatomical diagrams, sides are switched. I thought she said that it was anatomical. And then she was saying his right or whatever. So is this his left or his right? Now Lindsay Hendricks has me all mixed up. See, now I'm going to have to go back and listen to her. Because the stuff that I know that, I didn't come here to math. I didn't come here to anatomical. All right, let's see. So this is what I see on. Because this is what I wrote. I wrote the lateral and all that. Let's see. Top of head. Left upper lateral eyebrow. And lateral's left, right? Left upper. This is how I did it. Is this not right? Left is his left. That's what I was. Okay. Because when she's saying left, I'm doing like my left, not like I'm looking at him. Okay. Y'all, it is 2 Friday for y'all to be giving me all these things to think about. I did not come here for art. Okay. All right, well, good. Okay, well, that's how I did it, because I was doing it as, when she's saying right and left, I'm doing it as my right and left. Okay. I did not come here to math, and I also am not an art major. So let's just throw that out there. Look, I might not be called in as a court sketch artist anytime soon, but at least it's color coordinated. All right, so one of them came from left ear to, okay, so one of them left ear out through here. Some of them, the direction of them has to be, lateral means away from midline. Y'all, you are giving me too many vocabulary words right now, Lindsay Hendricks. This is by your mic sketch. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I like my mic sketch. Okay, so let's think about this. Which ones would have had to have been done with him laying down? Let's try to figure out which one was first. Which one would have had to have been done with him laying down? It would have had to have been the one from here to here would have had to have been him laying down. The one from here to here would have had to be laying down. More than likely, the entrance wound on the chest would have been him laying down because that one didn't exit. So the first one would have had to either be the headshot or the elbow. Brandy, the chart lady, the CH is silent. The art lady. My art teacher would be so proud. Miss Davidson, 9th grade art, if you're watching, I credit this to you. So it would have to be I didn't number them. I have to number them or else I can't. Wound 1 was entrance near left ear. Okay, so this was number 1. Wound number 2 was the top of the head, upper lateral eyebrow. Okay, so this is number 2. 5 was the elbow. Where did the elbow exit? Gray is this one. Whichever part of evidence. So this is 3. And then this one's 4. Okay. The elbow did exit. I think elbow first, then he knocked the extinguisher off the wall. So if he did trying to like picture it in my picture how he could have done it. Oh, exited his left forearm for the elbow. Thank you. My extra. I did it on the wrong. I did 5 wrong. Okay. 5. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes. All right, forearm. Okay, but The elbow one doesn't really tell us a whole lot of direction-wise when we're first looking at these, because we don't know, like you said, the one thing Joshy got right was that we don't know how he was standing. Okay, elbow first. Mike fell back into the fridge, that corner, knocked down the fire extinguisher. Bent over, Thami, shot through the top of his head through the jaw. Okay, if he's walking out, if he hit he's walking out, he hits elbow first. What if he was holding the mat? Well, he might have had blood on him if he was doing that, though. Or holding whatever he was holding. And that's how it went through the elbow, through the forearm, dropped that stuff, fell, knocked over the fire extinguisher. As he's going down, Thami shoots the, let's see, that says, as he's going down, Thami shoots again. This one, if he's falling it right here, it goes through here, and he's falling this through here. And then the way that he was, the one through the let me move us. Chest and then the abdomen that came up, that one would have been laying down while he's on the ground.
Please be seated. Your Honor, the jury's all present in the court.
We are back on the record in C-250966, stating that was Thomas Randolph. For the record, thank you, Mr. Randolph, Mr. President, Mr. Attorney, Deputy District Attorney on behalf of the state. We both parties did to the defense of our jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
State, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Randy McPhail.
Randy McPhail. Here we go.
Yes. Yes. First name is Randall. It's Randall. Last name is McPhail. MC capital PHAIL.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, how were you employed back in 2008?
I was a senior crime scene analyst with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
And have you since retired?
Yes.
And what year did you retire?
2018.
What was the process for you in becoming a crime scene analyst? Did you start off in a certain position and then move up?
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to have the qualifications to even test for the crime scene analyst. I had over 30 years experience in photography. I also completed university courses in mathematics and chemistry and some business related courses as well. Once I tested and was hired, I went through the Crime Scene Analyst Academy as a Crime Scene Analyst 1, and also the Field Training and Evaluation Program for Crime Scene Analysts. The CSA 1 job is an entry-level position where you really gain the foundation for your future work as a crime scene analyst, hopefully a senior crime scene analyst. After spending 2 years as a crime scene analyst 1, you're able to test for crime scene analyst 2. And that's a more responsible position, one that handles more person calls versus the property calls that you probably came from as a CSA 1. It's also a preparatory position for the CSA 3. The CSA 3, or the senior crime scene analyst, that is another testing process. It takes you 4 years to get to that point where you can test for that position. And it's a rigorous testing process. And when you're done with that, you're pretty much handling person calls as well as some property calls, but mostly person calls. And that means you might be working on homicides, you might be working on sexual assaults, complex scenes. But it takes you 4 years to get to that position and quite a bit of testing.
And so when you work for Metro as a crime scene analyst, your proficiency tested within the organization,
Yes,
and you're evaluated and you either promote or you don't promote. Is that
correct.
fair? And you have training in all aspects of crime scene documentation and preservation.
Yes,
And that would be photography and then doing measurements, making diagrams, that sort of thing.
yes.
Do you personally have, or at least in 2008, did you have a special, I guess, qualification in the area of bloodstain pattern analysis?
Yes, I completed probably about 125 hours worth of training for bloodstain pattern analysis. I also completed approximately 129 hours for shooting incident reconstruction.
Yes.
And did quite a bit of work in those two fields during my career.
Now, for those designations, were those separate and apart from Metro? Like, is there like an independent body of Metro that says you're qualified in the area of bloodstain pattern analysis and interpretation?
There is. I did do a lot of work with Metro. We had classes that we try to get everybody on board with bloodstain pattern analysis. So we had classes for that. If you certify in bloodstain pattern analysis, you do so through the International Association for Identification. You also, I certified as in crime scene reconstruction, which dealt with bloodstain pattern analysis as well as shooting incident reconstruction. And cold case homicides were part of that class as well. So yeah, there is further education, and the certification goes through the International Association for Identification.
And over the course of your career until your retirement, how many crime scenes do you think that you've been to?
Sorry to say, I really didn't keep track of it. I'm sure I believe it's around the 6,000 mark when I left the department, probably ranging in complexity from simple burglaries all the way up to more complex person calls like sexual assaults and homicides.
Okay. And back on May the 15th of 2008, were you requested to go to an address on Rancho Santa Fe Drive by homicide detectives?
Yes.
And do you recall which detective it was that requested that you come out?
I believe it was Dino Kelly who asked me to come out.
And so
Dino Kelly.
Do you recall what the purpose was for you in going out there?
Yes.
What was that?
I had two purposes. The first was when homicide detectives returned to the scene to do a reenactment, they actually found 2 additional 9mm cartridge cases in the garage that were not found on the night of the 8th when the scene actually happened. So I was called to collect those, document their positions and collect those as well. I was also called to document some oily deposits on the walls inside the hallway.
And why were you called to document those deposits on the hallway?
They would have been associated with the shooting. There was blood, hair, tissue, all in the hallway at high levels. It went up from 5'8" above the floor all the way up to the ceiling in some places at 12 feet high. And they wanted me to document those so they could be analyzed in the future if they needed to.
When you went out there, did you take your own photographs documenting your work?
Yes,
And did you also prepare diagrams sort of representing what you found at the scene?
yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to show you photographs which have been admitted as states 215 to 246. I'll ask you to just look through those yourself and let me know when you're done, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Do those photographs look like the ones that you took on that evening?
The only one that question is the first one, and it might have been mine. It's just so generic. I'm not sure that I took it.
Okay, but does it fairly and accurately represent the location?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm showing you states 247 to 249. Do you recognize these three diagrams?
Yes, I do.
Are those diagrams that you prepared?
Yes.
So I think you said your first purpose in going back to the scene that evening was to collect some evidence.
That's correct.
I'm going to put on the overhead states 216. And is your screen on in there?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously one of your duties as a crime scene analyst is to collect evidence, correct?
Yes.
The evidence that you were asked to collect that night, did you find it yourself or was it pointed out to you by homicide detectives and sergeants?
It was indeed pointed out to me by homicide detectives.
And what was the nature of the evidence?
They were fired 9mm cartridge cases.
Now, looking at 216, what are we looking at in terms of the area of the residence?
This would be the southwest corner of the garage where the water heater is. You can see the water heater by the door. This door here I always referred to as the fire door. It's a thick, solid door that leads from the garage into the interior of the residence. We see a red toolbox right by the water heater. There's also a tray that's used for tools in front of that toolbox by the water heater, water softener in front of the water heater.
Okay. Can you, I think there's a mouse up there. Can you circle the sort of bluish green toolbox? Just for the members of the jury. And is that the location of one of the cases that you recovered?
Yes.
I'm going to put on the overhead next, states 217. What are we looking at in that photograph?
It's the same area, but it's a different angle. This is actually looking west. So we have the water softener on the right side of the water heater. The tray, this blue tray that holds tools and other items inside, that was by the water heater in this area here. And there was a cartridge case in this tray. There was also a cartridge case down in this area here that we'll see in a moment, I'm sure.
Okay. I'm going to put on the overhead states 219. Do you see the cartridge case in the blue tray?
Yes, it's right in the very top section, the blue tray by the pliers.
And then this is states 220.
And this is, the softener is right here. The line that goes up is the side of the water softener. This is a pedestal for the water heater. And right here, we can see a cartridge case by that empty water container.
So one was in sort of that blue tool tray and one was by that bottle of water next to the water heater?
Correct.
What did you do with those items after they were pointed out to you?
I photographed them, documented them in my notes, and then recovered them.
Putting on the overhead states 221. Does that appear to be one of the items?
Yes.
And this is states 223. Is that the second one?
Yes,
And then you would have impounded those, is that right?
that is correct.
And then they would have been submitted for firearms analysis by another person, correct?
Yes.
You don't do that?
No,
or-
I don't.
Okay, so the second reason that you were asked to go out there is because I think you said there were some oily deposits on the wall that the homicide detectives wanted you to look at.
Correct.
You, over the course of your career, did you have occasion to attend autopsies?
Yes.
And any estimate on how many that you went to?
I think it's probably over 100, but I don't know exactly. I didn't keep track of those as well, but I attended autopsies the first maybe 5 or 6 years in my career as a crime scene analyst, and there was probably hundreds of them.
You described the spots earlier as oily deposits. Were they consistent with anything that you had observed at autopsy over the course of your career?
I thought that it was probably cerebral fluid that surrounds the brain, that it came from some kind of brain injury, and kind of painted the walls with these small specks of fluid that leached out into the flat wall paint.
Okay, and had you seen that before at prior scenes?
Yes.
Is that why you thought that was possible in this case?
Yes.
The consistency of cerebral fluid, how would you describe it?
A very light, oily consistency.
Now, when you went about doing sort of the secondary purpose here, not impounding the cartridge cases, but examining the walls, what steps did you go through?
I first examined the walls, and this would have been the area where Sharon Randolph was killed, around that area. Examined the walls, took notes on that, drew some diagrams so I could later make the diagrams you'll see here today. And then I attached little arrows showing directionality if possible, if not just showing the round stains that weren't so directionally. Sometimes when something hits the wall, you can actually tell the direction of it based on the tail that's going from the end of it. These were roundish stains about the size of a quarter. There was a lot of them in that area, and some of the stains did have some directionality with small blood stains inside, very small. They were probably about 1/2 millimeter in diameter, really small stains.
I'm going to put on the overhead states 214. When you got to the residence on the 15th, did you walk
Fun fact?
this hallway from? I know you weren't there on the night of the homicides, but did you walk this hallway on the 15th?
Definitely.
And were you looking at the walls of the hallway for possible evidence?
Yes.
You said that you ended up focusing in the area where Mrs. Randolph's body was?
Yes, but also this whole hallway, there were those small stains I was referring to earlier, the oily deposits, as well as blood, tissue, hair on this wall here and on this wall here, also above the bathroom door. And there was a little overhang. I guess it was probably due to air conditioning or something over the master bedroom door. So above your head, a little overhang. There was stains on that as well.
Okay. And when you walked it, did the detectives tell you where to look, or did you just do that based on your own experience?
I did it myself.
Okay.
They told me that the event happened in the hallway. Obviously, it was a week after I got there. So they just told me the event happened in the hallway, and they pointed out a couple of things, maybe a couple of stains, maybe some hair on the walls. I can't remember specifically, but I examined the area myself.
Okay. And I think you said that ultimately you kind of look at this wall here and this wall as well as you examine this wall. Is that fair?
Yes.
And you actually look at this wall too, which is by the bathroom. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you did sort of a walkthrough. You looked for areas of possible evidence. What would be the next step that you took in investigating this scene?
Again, I would do the notes would follow that. My initial drawings at the scene would follow that. All the little arrows I put up there for directionality would follow that initial process.
And you said you would mark things on the walls that you saw?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna put on the overhead states 225. Let me zoom out just a little bit. So kind of orienting, that appears to be if you're standing in the hallway facing the master bedroom?
Yes, that's correct. So you're looking south right now.
Okay, and when we look at the left of that, this photograph, there appears to be numerous kind of yellow arrow stickers.
Correct.
Is that your work?
That is my work.
And what are you documenting there that you see?
Those would be the oily stains. And again, some of these stains had blood stains within them as well.
And I'm going to put on the overhead states 228. Is that just a different view?
Yes, this is looking toward the east. So this wall here, we actually saw it in the previous photo, but this is looking east. The doorbell chime is right here on that wall. And also of note, there's a possible impact right here, a bullet impact or a bullet fragment impact.
Okay. And did you measure, or do you know how high up that was?
None of the stains were below 5 feet 8. They were all above that point, and they went all the way, in some cases, to the ceiling. So they're approaching the 12-foot mark.
Okay. And you actually have your measuring tape here?
Yes.
I think I have a close-up of a stain. This would be states 230. Is that sort of a close-up of what you were talking about?
This is actually a evidence sample that I collected. You can see tissue on it, possibly a bit of hair. So that was my item number 4.
And you would have impounded that?
Correct.
And that would have been, or could have been submitted for DNA testing?
Correct.
And someone else does that, you collect it and then someone else tests it?
Yes.
I want to show a different photograph. This is states 236. Is that a different area that you marked as well?
Yes, the number 4 is still visible here. It'll be the same number. I didn't have 2 number 4s. So that's number 4. It's in the area labeled F, like Frank, and it shows numerous impact or little blood impacts, tissue impacts, and that oily substance impact on the door above the bathroom.
And next I'm going to put on the overhead states 241. And just for orientation purposes, this is the door to the garage.
Yes.
So like from the house going out to the garage.
Correct.
And I see some markings up here on the ceiling. Is that fair?
Yes.
And what were you marking up there?
There's blood and tissue up on the air conditioning cover, the air vent cover. There's also hair and a fatty substance up there. And you can see labels here, 2 and 1. Those are my evidence labels. So that's 1 and 2 item that I picked up from the scene, samples from that area.
I'm going to put on the overhead states 242. I guess that one. Can you see the item of evidence there that you're pointing at is like a hair and a little bit of tissue?
That's correct, right there. And that would be on the metal portion of that air vent intake.
And this is states 243.
Little fatty deposit right here again on that. It's metal. It's highly gloss paint. Yes.
And so ultimately, after you do all these markings and measurements, you prepare diagrams to represent what you found?
Correct. I saw a photo in there that you had just put away. It shows the oily stains are extremely difficult to photograph. And this photo right here shows about what we're looking at with them. If I used a flash on them, as we typically do inside,
just
it
once.
completely drowned those oily stains away. And this is kind of what we were looking at when we just come here. You can see little round stains here there's a few of them, but they're extremely difficult to photograph. They only showed up on these ambient light shots where you use the light inside the house that's there already to show it.
And, excuse me, for the record, this is states 244. So what you're pointing out are sort of these shinier, circular shaped
Yes,
things. Is that
yes.
fair?
It-
Okay. And so that's what you were analyzing in order to try to determine like a placement of when a shot was inflicted. Is that right?
Correct.
Part of that was doing diagrams of the evidence that you located.
Yes.
So let's see, I will start with this is States Exhibit 248. And to orient us, just for 1 second, I'm going to put side by side 214, which is the crime scene diagram.
Okay. If you flipped it over there, that would be more appropriate.
Okay, perfect. So we have 214 on the right and then 248 is on the left. And so the vantage point here is looking towards the master bedroom. Is that right?
That's correct. And the master bedroom is right here. The doorway to the master bedroom is right here. This would be the door to the master bedroom.
Okay. And so you have marked on 248, or your diagram on 248 has areas marked D, E, and F. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so that's where you were noting the oily deposits that you were speaking of earlier in your testimony?
Yes, these of course they weren't laid out in square. That was just my area for them. They would have been a different pattern altogether. I just wanted to measure in how big these areas were and put them on the wall. So D would be the east wall of the north-south hallway. E is that little overhang over the master bedroom entry area. And F would be the wall just above the bathroom door. The south wall of the east-west hallway is right here.
Now, on the south wall, did you find any tissue or blood or oily deposits or anything like that that you noticed when you were there on the 15th?
No, there was absolutely nothing on that wall, and that kind of helped me decide where that shooting took place.
Okay. And so I think you said, like, obviously they weren't deposited in perfect squares or like a
Correct.
rectangle and a square, but they were generally in these areas of D, E, and F.
Correct.
And so that's what you're representing in 248.
Yes.
Now I'm going to put, well, actually, sorry, if I could just go back 1 second to 248. You made measurements on these of how high up they were. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the measurement?
They would actually be in one of the diagrams. I'm not sure which one, but I actually have all of those measured.
Okay, let me zoom in here. You measured, like, for instance, on these diagrams, you would measure where the overhang was, and it would be 9 feet.
That's correct.
9 feet 3
Yes.
inches or 8 feet 6 inches, that
Like-
type of thing.
Yeah, that like section D, or sorry, area E went 9'3", if I'm reading it right.
Yeah.
9'3" high, and it was as low as 8'6" above that overhang.
Okay, and you did the same thing for F as well. You measured in as high as 9 feet or 7 feet 3 inches.
Yes.
So let me now put on side by side states
What? Did we
247.
just become best friends? Yep.
Happy anniversary. Thank you.
Okay. So this you have labeled as the east wall.
Correct.
And looking at the other diagram, can you kind of point out where this is?
Yes, this would be the east wall right here. And there's the door jamb that you can kind of see. Area D is right against this door jamb here, and that door is right here.
So this door corresponds to this door?
Correct.
Okay. And so you looked at this east wall for those same oily deposits or evidence of gunshot wounds or some high velocity injury.
Yes,
And you also, with area D, measured in how high up they were.
yes,
And I think that's as low as 5 feet 9 inches.
right,
And then it looks like you also labeled on your diagram here, item 4, hair and tissue,
correct.
and that was 8 feet 3 inches up.
Yes,
And then some of the deposits went as high up as 9 feet 6 inches.
yes,
And again, that's along this wall right here.
that is correct.
Lastly, I'd like to put on the overhead states 249. Now, looking at our diagram of the house, where is this wall?
That is right here. It's this would be the east-west hallway. That is the north wall of the east-west hallway.
So you're not talking about this wall right here, you're talking about this side of it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And in terms of what you saw on this wall, you also saw some of those same deposits, and then I think you took a blood sample and you have that as item 3.
That's correct.
And then you measured out other items of evidence that you found?
Yes, I showed where other small blood drops were here, and in this section called A right here. Also, a continuation would be up to the air conditioning vent as well.
And it looks like at the air conditioning vent, you collected another item of evidence that was yellow fatty tissue.
Right, we looked at those photos earlier. One was a head hair, I believe, and the other was fatty tissue from the air conditioning vents here and here.
Okay, and so you were able to make observations of this scene as to all of those walls and look at the evidence itself. First, in terms of like what you observed on the wall, was it consistent with like a high velocity injury, like a gunshot wound?
Yes.
And when you were going there on the 15th, was part of the question for homicide detectives about like where Sharon Randolph might have been when she was shot?
Yes.
And what determination did you make based on what you saw?
I would have put her shooting right near the bathroom, not too far from that door, but right in this area here, about where her knees would be, right in that area.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you found an absence of any material on that south wall. Would that be right?
It would be the south wall of the east-west hallway. Yes, there was an absence, and that's one of the reasons I came to that determination. If there was marks on that wall, I would have put her further down this way. But because that wall was completely shielded from any kind of debris hitting it, I was pretty confident that it happened past that south wall.
Okay, and so you mean past this wall right here?
Yes.
And so somewhere beyond that wall is where she got shot?
Correct.
Do you know which way she was facing, or can you make any kind of determination like that?
I would say that she was heading toward the master bedroom in a southern direction. The reason for that is because where the wound was on the head. It was on the right side, and we have all this debris coming out this way toward that wall, toward this wall, toward this wall. And if it was any other way, I don't believe it could have happened that. And it couldn't have deposited that blood, the tissue, the oily deposits. They couldn't have been on those walls if she was facing another way.
Court's indulgence.
I'm already annoyed. What if Tommy Step was like, that is not how I did it?
Shown to the prosecution, what's been marked as defense proposed F through Q. I don't believe there's an objection. I move for their admission.
F through Q? No
Yes.
objection, Your Honor. Okay. F through Q will be admitted.
May I proceed?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. McPhail.
Hi,
How is retirement treating you?
I'm still working.
Who called it?
Um,
Who called it?
in the
Somebody
time
called
that
it.
you worked for Metro, I'm sure you know that you have developed a reputation as one of the finest crime scene analysts that ever worked at Metro. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but what an honor. Thank you.
Okay.
And you've worked a lot of crime scenes
Yes.
with a lot of crime scene analysts.
Yes.
Certainly you had a sterling career prior to retirement. You'd agree with that, right?
Yes.
Okay. There are limitations, however, no matter how good you are as a crime scene analyst, to what you can accomplish at a scene. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
For instance, if Mr. Orem finally had enough of me talking and stood up and whacked me in the back of the head, there may be some forensic evidence left behind on the ground around us, right?
With what? His hand?
I don't know, a baseball bat.
Baseball bat, yes. I would expect that.
If he shot me with a semi-automatic handgun
Yes.
and then ran out the door,
Yes.
you would expect that there were instrumentalities of what he had done left behind, right?
Yes.
And there would be actual physical evidence from my injuries, right?
Yes. A gunshot wound for sure.
Okay. Would you agree with me that in
No.
that same scenario, he's finally had enough of me and he shoots me in the back with a semi-automatic handgun, and then all the instruments of the shooting, the gun, the casings, the bullet, are cleaned up and taken out of here, and the blood deposited behind is cleaned up and it's not here anymore, you probably wouldn't be able to tell us nearly as much about the incident, would you?
You're absolutely right. That'd be a very difficult situation.
Okay. And as a crime scene analyst, the goal is to get to a scene as soon as possible after the incident, right?
Yes.
And to get to a scene that's been preserved to the best of the ability of those preserving, right?
Yes.
Because if anything has moved within that scene, it can tarnish the investigation, right?
Yes.
And if things aren't preserved properly or documented and collected properly, that can make it really difficult to go back in time and depict what accurately happened. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to your involvement in this case. You did not respond to the initial shooting scene, right?
That is correct.
You're familiar with a guy by the name of Gary Reed, now deceased, correct?
Yes.
You worked with him for a number of years.
Yes.
And you know a crime scene analyst by the name of Jeff Smith, don't
Yes.
you? And you knew a crime scene analyst by the name of Chelsea Collins.
Yes.
You're aware, as part of your involvement in this case, that they responded to the original crime scene.
Yes.
And they had the obligation, the duty at that scene to document, collect, and preserve the evidence close in time to the shooting. You agree with that?
Yes.
You indicated to us on direct examination there were a number of things that were apparent to you when you responded to the scene that you photographed and that you collected, right?
Correct.
Certainly items of physical evidence that you located, right?
Yes.
In fact, that was pointed out to you by homicide detectives, right?
The cartridge cases, yes.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you first about those. You responded on the 15th of May of 2008, right?
Yes.
And at the time you did, you had information as to the event number of the original event.
Yes.
And you knew that that event had happened on the 8th of May.
Right. A week before.
You knew you were there exactly a week later.
Yes.
Correct? You talked to detectives about it, right?
I don't know how much I did, but I'm sure it was mentioned. Yes.
Okay. At the time you testified on direct examination a moment ago, you indicated where the body of Sharon Randolph was lying. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
You weren't involved in the investigation to know that that was Sharon Randolph, right?
Correct. It was gained by photos.
Somebody gave you the information of her name, though, right?
Right.
And prior to going into the scene, you talked to detectives about what may be important that you may be there to collect.
Yes.
Specifically, they talked to you about cartridge cases, right?
Yes.
You had an understanding that those were not discovered by crime scene analysts or detectives where they were at the time of the shooting on May 8th, right?
Yes.
All you did is say, that's the cartridge case you're referring to. I'm going to go ahead and impound that now, right?
Yes.
And prior to doing so, you photographed it as it was a week later. Agreed?
Correct.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah.
When you were present at the scene, you noticed once you went inside these oily deposits, right?
Yes.
And from your experience, you believe them to be cerebral fluid
Yes.
because it kind of has a almost unique appearance to it, right?
Yes.
It's thicker than water, right?
Yes.
Stickier.
Right.
And you can look at a stain on the wall and say, to me, that looks like cerebral fluid.
I would say that. Yes.
You agree that it's easier to see with the eye than, as you just mentioned, to pick up in a photograph.
Correct.
Difficult to photograph, but easy for you to see that day.
Yes.
And you also indicated that there were a number of blood droplets contained within that cerebral fluid.
On some of them, yes.
And you could actually see that with your naked eye.
Yes.
And because of the color of the blood, it picks up a lot easier on a photograph.
Yes.
You actually got up on a ladder, right?
Yes.
And you looked at items of forensic evidence left behind high up on a wall. Agreed?
Yes.
They included fatty tissue, right?
Yes.
That's something that you would have looked for had you been there on May 8th, right?
Yeah, probably.
And if you'd have seen it, you would have photographed it
Yes.
and you would have impounded it.
Yes.
If you'd have seen those blood droplets, you would have swabbed them, right?
Yes.
And you would have impounded them on May 8th, right?
Yes.
You also located hair up on the wall, right?
Correct.
And you photographed it
Yes.
and you impounded it
Yes.
because it's important.
Yes.
You even located tissue on the wall.
Yes.
And you did the same with that. You photographed it and impounded it.
Yes.
Because that's important for a crime scene analyst to do, right?
Yes.
Okay. You said something interesting on direct examination, and that is as you looked up and down this hallway, I'm going to flip this back around here. That N arrow at the top on states 214, that indicates north, right?
Yes.
This door, you walk in and out of this door, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's the door from the garage into that north-south hallway.
Yes.
And you walked up and down that hallway.
I did.
When you were there, that hallway was clean, wasn't it?
The floor area was cleaned. I believe the door to the master bedroom was also cleaned off, so there was no blood on that at that time.
Yeah, so you weren't there on May 8th, right?
Correct.
You looked at photographs of May 8th.
Yes.
So you had an opportunity to see that residence in the condition it was in on May 8th in the photographs.
Yes.
And you'd agree with me in those photographs, there's no photographs of those blood droplets, right?
Yes.
No photos of the tissue,
Correct.
no photos of the hair,
Correct.
no photos of the fatty deposits.
Yes.
I want to show you a couple of photographs here.
Blah, 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 blah.
Show you what's first in evidence is defense F.
These grapes are really
You
good.
see that initials and personnel number there?
Yes.
You take a picture of that to document that those are your photos, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the one I'm going to show you what's in evidence is I. You put a scale and some directionality arrows and some letter and number markings on some of those blood droplets, right?
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's in evidence is defense J. That's a close-up of that same one. You see those even without zooming in on defense J, those blood droplets, right?
Yes.
They're obvious to you, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you now defense K. Do you see above the door, there's a scale with all the arrows, letters, and numbers above that scale?
Yes.
And that's because all of the physical evidence you're referring to was above that height, correct?
Above 5'8". Yes. Or yeah. Was it 6'8"? My mind is slipping. It was either 5'8" or 6'8". I can't remember.
Okay. If you testified on direct examination and indicated in your report it was 5'8", you wouldn't dispute that.
I would not.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay. Roughly how far is it between your eyes to the top of your head?
Say 3 inches.
Okay. So for someone a couple inches shorter than you, me for instance, my eyes might be about 5'8". Would you agree with that?
Okay.
You wouldn't dispute that, would you?
No.
Okay. You would agree all the evidence that you documented, collected, photographed, and impounded was above that height, right?
Except for the cartridge cases. Yes.
Okay. And in fact, a better representation is in defense L. You see there's nothing on those walls below that. See that?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, those walls were clean of anything of evidentiary value when you were there, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
Did you document, collect, or preserve anything of evidentiary value below 5'8" on those walls?
No.
I'm going to show you, you just indicated you reviewed photographs. What's in is defense N. I'm going to zoom in on this one. Do you see that little cartridge case right in front of the door?
Yes.
You saw that photograph prior to going on the 15th, right?
I don't think so. I had no involvement in this case whatsoever until the 15th.
Yeah, but I'm saying prior to going to the scene on the 15th, you looked at the photos from the 8th.
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay.
That was the first time I saw anything with this scene was on the 15th.
All right, I'm going to show you a photo then zoomed out from the one I just showed you. Defense M. Do you see that hallway?
Yes.
Do you recognize that as the north-south hallway?
Yes, in the north end of it, the garage door being right here.
That's the door to the garage, right smack dab in the middle, right?
Correct.
You see the way that rug is kind of folded up there?
I do?
You had nothing to do with that, right?
No.
Do you see as we look at that photograph on the left-hand side, some items hanging on the wall?
Yes.
What does it appear to be to you?
Hat, sun hat.
Like a big brimmed, wide, maybe 24-inch by 24-inch?
20-inch, yeah, 20 to 24-inch, yes.
Okay, let me ask you this. If there was a shooting directly adjacent to that hat on that wall, and there were biological materials as a result of a high velocity gunshot wound, could they be collected on that hat?
Yes.
Would you be able to examine them?
Yes.
Okay. When you went to that location on the 15th of May, was that hat there?
I don't think it was.
When you were there on the 15th of May, at the opposite end of that hallway, you agree you documented above eye level the number of arrows, right?
Yes.
At the bottom of that photograph, do you see that doorway?
The door to the master bedroom?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you see anything unusual about the carpet?
Yes.
Is there a big old piece cut out of it?
Yes.
When you were there on the 15th, did you see any blood on the floor?
No.
It had been cleaned up, right?
Yes.
Someone had been in there and cleaned up that whole hallway, didn't they?
Yes.
And it appeared to you from eye level down, everything was clear with no items of evidentiary value. Agreed?
Yes.
What about, I'm going to show you what's in evidence is State 55. Do you see that inside of the garage portion of the residence at 6517 Rancho Santa Fe?
Yes.
You see blood all over the floor?
Yes.
When you were there, was that blood there?
I don't believe it was. I don't recall, but I don't believe it was.
Okay. Do you see up at the top there some items laying just outside the door?
Yes.
Looks like a couple bags and a couple toolboxes.
Yes.
Okay. You photographed that same area when you were there on the 15th, didn't you?
Yes.
I'm going to show you defense G. Looks pretty clean in front of that door, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay. You'd agree with me that some of those items have moved, haven't they?
Yes.
You'd agree with me that the photograph that you took on the 15th depicts an entirely different scene than the one that was taken on the 8th, right?
So there have been things moved. I would agree with that.
And when things are moved in a crime scene where you're trying to document, collect, and preserve evidence as it was at the time of the crime, that can lead to some inconsistent findings, right?
Possibly.
And in this case, some of those toolboxes had moved, right?
I think so, yes.
The ground had been cleaned up, hadn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Hadn't it?
Okay.
I hate his voice.
The blood that was clearly there at both ends of that hallway and in between on the 8th of May was gone when you came, right?
Yes.
When you got there, there was actually other members of law enforcement present, right?
Yes.
You were called there by Detective Dino Kelly, correct?
Yes.
And when you got there, there was a homicide sergeant that was there, right?
Albie, yes.
By the name of Rocky Albie. You knew him, right?
Very well.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He pointed out some items of evidence to you, right?
I can't remember who did it. Whoever pointed out the cartridge cases, it was somebody from the homicide team, but I don't recall who it was.
And you impounded them.
Yes.
And you agree with me that because the area in which you impounded them from had moved in the last week, the cartridge case had presumably moved too.
It's possible. It's certainly possible.
Okay. You'd agree with me that a week later, after items have moved and been cleaned up, it has a lot less evidentiary value to you, doesn't it?
It's a lot more difficult to tell a story if something's been moved, yes.
Right. In other words, if you're looking at forensic evidence in order to prove or disprove a story, if it's been altered, it makes it a lot harder, right?
Yes,
In fact, it's practically impossible, isn't it?
it can be.
Okay.
Look at that smug face.
Detective Dino Kelly was present when you arrived, yes?
Yes.
So was Detective Cliff Monk.
Not sure. I know Rob Wilson was, but I'm not sure about Cliff Monk. I'm not saying he wasn't. I just don't remember.
Do you remember that they were conducting something called a walkthrough
Yes.
and they were videotaping it?
They had just finished when I got there.
Okay. Just so it's clear, you notate in your report when you arrive and when you leave, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, in your report, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you documented as your time of arrival?
I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly, it was 9:17 p.m.
Okay. If I were to indicate the report said 9:16,
My bad.
about the same, but you would agree with me that
Hold
that
on.
time is documented and written in your report at
Yes.
that time, right?
Yes.
You also document when you clear the scene, don't you?
Yes.
And in this case, you documented that you left at 1:06 a.m. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Okay. You were there for a number of hours
Yes.
and you were putting up all those arrows. Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry.
And you were photographing them, right?
Yes.
And it was pertaining to what detectives had told you, the area that was important in the case, right?
I honestly, I don't know that they told me anything was important. I prefer to enter something like that with very little knowledge of what happened so I can draw my own conclusions. I was probably given some very basics of the scene, and beyond that, I don't think anybody was too specific.
Okay. I'm going to put on the overhead. This is the last little thing I'm going to ask you.
Thank God.
When you were drawing your own conclusions about what happened, when you were documenting the items of evidentiary value that remained a week later after the homicide, you would agree with me that you took photos of all of the forensic evidence related to blood or tissue or evidence of a shooting, right?
Yes.
Okay. You would agree with me that hat on the wall was gone, right?
I think it was. I don't recall seeing it.
If a hat had been there, would you have looked at it to determine if there was evidentiary value on it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you defense O. This is a still shot from that walkthrough video. You agree with me, the jury's already seen this video. You would agree with me that still shot depicts different items hanging there, right?
The hat is definitely missing.
The hat's been
Yeah.
removed, right?
Yes.
And it had been removed prior to your arrival.
Correct.
As far as you know, that hat was never examined, impounded, tested.
I never read anything about that.
Okay. Do you see the door that's open in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you look at the exterior portion of that garage door when you were there on the 15th?
I don't recall.
Let me ask you this. If the door was open as it's depicted in defense O, and there was someone right adjacent to that door and they were shot with a gun and a high velocity impact occurred, could you potentially find some forensic evidence on that door?
You could potentially, yes.
Did you ever look at that side of that door when you were there on the 15th?
I don't know that I did. I can't say I didn't. I just don't recall.
Okay. As you sit here today, you can't tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that you looked at it, right?
Correct.
You
That's
can
fair.
you can tell us the blood that was on the ground had been cleaned when you were there, right?
Yes.
And you can tell us the area in the exterior of that door in the garage had also been cleaned, right?
The only door I know of that was cleaned specifically would have been the master bedroom door.
And I apologize if my question wasn't clear. In defense G, that area outside the door has been cleaned, yes? Not talking about the door surface.
The blood on the ground appears not to be there anymore, and I do not recall it being there that day.
And it appears to be neat and tidy and swept up, right?
What?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
And you agree there's no blood on that door that you can see in that photo?
That I can see, yes.
And you took that photo?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the last thing, as I mentioned. This is state 240. That's one of those blood drops, right?
Yes,
Very obvious, correct?
correct.
You photographed it, yes?
Yes,
Do you see the texture of that paint?
yes.
What do you refer to that as?
Just textured walls.
My goodness.
And the paint itself was a flat beige colored paint.
Okay, the texture, do you refer to it as orange peel?
Oh, you know, I would have just learned something today. I just call it textured wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
The texturing and the application of paint to it can strengthen that drywall, right?
Yes,
It would make it harder, for instance, to see a mark on it, right?
no, I'm going to disagree with you there. I think the mark would be obvious, depending on what you're talking about. A bullet strike or something is certainly stronger than that material in the wall, and it would show up.
Okay. And the paint clearly depicts blood quite well.
Yes,
And you'd agree with me, you didn't document, collect, or preserve any blood below eye level.
that's correct.
Courts and buildings.
Oh, you're a good girl. I want to teach her to bark every time Thami comes up. Or growl.
In addition to homicide detectives and investigators that were present, do you recall any other people being there?
Mr. Randolph was there. Like I said, I caught the tail end of that interview we was doing where we walked through the scene. I didn't even catch the tail end of it. They were done by the time I got there. And I believe he was there at some point.
Okay. Do you remember anyone else being there?
No,
Does the name Colleen Meyer mean anything to you?
no.
Okay. How long did it take you to put up all those arrows?
Well, I was there about 3 hours, and it took a good bit of time to document that.
Of course, and buildings. I think Mr. Orm's done as well, Judge.
State, can you read direct?
So, Mr. McPhail, when you were there on the 15th, the request was made from homicide for you to come out there, correct?
Yes.
Then do they limit you in where you can look or where you can work or what you can do to examine the scene?
No, not at all. There's
Do you kind of work independently from them, setting up your own photography, your own process on how you want to do it?
yes.
Did they restrict you at all in terms of where you could look for blood or tissue or strike marks or anything like that?
No.
You were allowed to look all through that hallway and document whatever you wanted?
Yes.
Okay. You talked about on cross-examination how everything you saw was sort of like 5'8" eye level or above, correct?
Correct.
If you had seen anything that looked like blood or cranial fluid or a strike mark or anything of ballistic significance below that, you would have been free to mark that, right?
Yes,
I mean, homicide wouldn't say, hey, we don't want anything below here.
that's correct.
Had you seen something like that, that would have been something that was important to you.
Yes.
And so presumably you documented what you observed when you went there on the 15th, what you were
Yes.
able to observe.
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Tomczak showed you a picture of that, that hallway, and then there was like a hat kind of hanging on the wall.
Yes.
Would you expect like a secondary strike or some sort of mark on a wall if a shot was fired there and in the direction of the hat?
The hat wouldn't have prevented anything from continuing to the wall. That's definite.
So let's talk about cartridge cases. I think you said you've been to many, many scenes.
Yes.
Have there been occasions when you've gone to a shooting scene where you happen to know the number of shots, but you can't find all the cases associated with them?
Yes.
Is that something, I mean, it's not ideal, but is that something that happens sometimes when crime scene analysts are at scenes?
Those are the kind of things that kept me up at night, not the horrific things I saw, but what I might have missed. It happens sometimes. Out of all the many complicated cases I've worked, all the scenes, I can't think of one that was perfect. And there's always something that keeps you up at night, and those are the things that do.
And is it because the cartridge cases, they're small and you're in a crowded space and sometimes you just don't see them all?
They get kicked. They end up being in things, in grass, for example, in rocks, a rock landscape. In this case, it was in a toolbox with a bunch of other small items. And so, yes, you do miss them sometimes. You're not proud of that, but it happens.
Okay. Now, given the
Thank
location
you for a super sticker.
where these were found, it kind of like back by the water heater and in that toolbox, that is sort of an area that you may miss if you were processing a scene.
It's certainly possible they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there, I guess, do you interpret like any sort of possible movement of those between the 8th and the 15th, given their location where they were found on the 15th? Well, how many crime scenes have you been to?
Hundreds, thousands.
Okay. Have there been occasions when you returned to scenes and found additional cartridge cases?
Yes.
And is sometimes that a day or two later?
It's happened, yes.
Okay. And based on
Good
that,
Tommy right.
based on that experience, do you have any opinion, I guess I should say, as to whether or not these cartridge cases appeared to have been moved from the 8th to the 15th?
That's my objection to speculation.
Well, he's an expert.
I'm an expert under what things happen when he's not there for a week.
Can't have so much.
Judge is like, y'all, I've had it with you. Ugh. His stupid face. It's almost time for his meds too. Wonder if he ever got that worked out. Lucy is in my lap. She's laying in my lap asleep.
Based on the location where these two additional cartridge cases were found, one's like underneath, or well, there's one in the toolbox that's sort of in one of the pockets for tools, correct?
Yes.
And it's underneath some, or well, next to like, I think it's a pair of pliers or
Yes.
something like that. And then the other one is sort of on the floor of the garage near a bottle of water, kind of tucked back in the corner.
Yes.
Okay. In your experience at crime scenes, are those the types of places that sometimes would be missed in a search?
It's very possible to miss cartridge cases. They bounce around a lot. They can be kicked inadvertently. It's easy to miss some cartridge cases.
And I think, you acknowledge it's not ideal, but sometimes that happens. There's no perfect processing of any crime scene.
Correct.
I even hate the way he gets his hair out of his face.
You can tell us where the cartridge cases were pointed out to you on the 15th of May, right?
Yes.
You have no idea how they got there, right?
Correct.
You have no idea whatsoever if they moved between the 8th and the 15th, correct?
I have no personal knowledge of that.
Okay. You do have personal knowledge that you documented, collected, and preserved evidence on the 15th in that hallway, right?
Yes.
And you also know that that evidence was missed on the 8th, correct?
Yes.
You mentioned a moment ago that the mistakes that can happen keep you up at night, right?
Yes, but not necessarily mistakes. Things that I missed, which become mistakes, yes. Things that I might not be able to understand at the moment. Those are the things that keep you up at night.
You would agree with me that the reason those things keep you up at night is because the things you're investigating can be so fundamentally important to a case like this, right?
Yes.
And if things aren't documented, collected, and preserved properly, investigators can reach the wrong result, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me that when you went back on the 15th, Ms. Weckerly, when she asked you a question, you would have documented, collected, and preserved evidence of blood lower on the wall had you seen it. You agree
Yes.
with that, right?
Yes.
Okay. You would agree with me you didn't see any, right?
Yes.
And you agree with me that that scene had been cleaned between the 8th and the 15th. Yes?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Sure. The walls on the 15th still had tissue on them, correct?
Correct.
The walls on the 15th still had, well, actually the air conditioning vent had hair,
Yes.
correct? And there were markings of cerebral fluid that you took samples of all along those walls. Is
Correct.
that fair? And all of that existed on the 15th.
Yes.
And had you found any other evidence that existed on the 15th related to ballistics or a gunshot wound or a secondary strike or anything indicating or anything having any connection to your interpretation of what took place in this hallway, you would have documented it, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh,
The things that you documented, all
Blech.
of them above eye level, right?
Yes.
Everything below eye level, no blood evidence.
It wasn't there. There were no wipe marks either, as if somebody cleaned up that area. There was nothing there.
I agree with you. There was nothing there, right?
Yes.
Okay. The arrows that you put up, did you take them down that night?
I don't think so. I usually don't.
Okay. Nothing further.
Nothing else.
Do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have any questions for this witness? If you can write a question on a full sheet of paper with your name.
Questions. Questions. I like jury questions more than I like Joshy questions. What's he nodding his head at? Sit down and shut up, Fami. I am not a beacon of love and empathy when it comes to him. Get your finger out, Tommy. Gross. Oh, my back hurts so bad. Give me my medicine. Oh, poor me. Poor Tommy. I just need to stand up. Oh my gosh, my back hurts, and I forgot about it until I saw this person sitting back there, and I want them to see me hurting. Ah! Oh my God. Let me stretch because I was fine until I just turned around and saw that somebody was back there. I need attention. I need attention. Oh, poor me. Poor Tommy. I'm going home. I wish he fell trying to get. Oh my gosh! If like the bailiff would have like kicked his chair out from under him. Sorry. God forgive me.
Sir,
Yes.
would you be able to determine from what position or location of the home was the shooter when he fired at Sharon Randolph?
Good
I
question.
believed that he would have been near the bathroom door, as was she. It was a near contact wound to her head where they found soot deposits at autopsy that indicates the gun was near her. So I would put him near the bathroom door, maybe even inside the bathroom door.
You mentioned on direct examination of the defect on the wall. Did you happen to swab that area for testing?
No, I did obtain a hair and tissue sample in the general area. I did not swab the area. As a matter of fact, after the projectile hit the wall there, it continued, ricocheted off that wall and went to the pot shelves, and it was recovered that night on the pot shelves. There was 2 fragments of the bullet that night that was recovered. Not of my night, the night of the 8th.
Why did they call you a week after and not the night of?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry. I just don't know why they didn't.
Statement follow up based on the juror question. Ms. Conte? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any other questions for this witness? Okay, seeing no response, sir, you are excused. Thank you very much for your testimony here today.
Good job, Randy.
Statement, you call your next witness?
This state would recall Dr. Gavin, Your Honor.
Okay.
Oh,
Can we approach real quick while she comes in, Judge?
Yes.
she's back. Guess who's back? Back again. Doctor's back. Brought a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Ugh. See? Holding that jaw again where he won't shut up. That's what happens. That's what happens. Look at him pushing. What are you doing? Are your teeth falling out? Oh, it's that state issued toothpaste. 15 years of that. Losing his dentures. Poor Tommy. Poor Tommy. Poor Tommy. He is a complainer. Say that, Kathleen Tackett. He is a complainer. Ugh. Ugh. You know, even like he even complaining so much about Sharon after her death.
Your Honor, was I excused before? Do I need to swear?
You are. Thank you.
No worries. I'm just asking.
No.
I do.
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Lisa Gavin, Lisagavin.
Thank you. Dr. Gavin, we had showed you a computer-generated image that had trajectory patterns. And I think on your direct examination, you said one of them was slightly off in your opinion medically as to its location.
Correct.
I'd like to approach and.
Oh, Kelly will be the last witness.
State's proposed 330. Have you, well, I'll ask you, can you look at that image and see if it accurately depicts the injuries? Location, I should say.
I didn't even think about that.
Okay. And there's arrows on 330 that indicate directionality. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And there are also
I mean, kind of.
arrows, I guess, sort of depicting whether it's on the left side or the right side in terms of entry and exit that correspond with sort of the pointed part of the arrow. Is that accurate in your opinion?
Yes.
Is it anatomically accurate in terms of where these injuries were observed on Mr. Miller, presuming the anatomical position?
They're accurate for the areas of entry and exit and the directionality.
Okay, state moves to admit 330.
Okay, that objection's overruled. 330 will be admitted.
No, put on the overhead, states 330.
Okay, here we go. This is a little bit better than mine.
Those depict the various entrance and exits on Mr. Miller as well as directionality. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna actually, if I could approach again, and have you label the injuries by number, if you could please, on 330, and here's a Sharpie.
So these are with the coroner's corresponding numbers, correct?
Correct. And again, that doesn't mean sequence of which they were inflicted.
I mean, mine was almost
Okay.
exactly
And then,
the same.
is there a way you,
As
well,
theirs.
is there a way you could mark on here, what one is the entry or what is the exit, or is that going to be based on sort of the arrow that's already on there?
I think the arrow implies that.
Okay. So let's look at 330. And this is the first one that we discussed on direct examination is the one that enters, sorry, I was doing it the wrong way, on the sort of near his left ear and comes out on his right forehead.
Correct.
And the second one is the left forehead entry. That's the one that's at that really steep angle that lacerates his tongue and comes out his neck.
Correct.
And the third one is the abdominal one that sort of travels up his chest,
Correct.
exits.
Correct.
And then injury number 4 is the one that was underneath the armpit area, and that's the one with no exit.
Correct.
And injury number 5 is the one that enters from the back of the sort of left elbow area and then comes through the front of his arm.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
You'd agree with me that states 330, that's not a photograph, right?
Correct.
It's kind of a animated, cartoony type representation of a human being, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there's arrows that go across it, right?
Yes.
State asked you a moment ago if those accurately depict the injuries sustained. You'd agree with me there's no injuries on that cartoon
Correct.
animation, right?
Correct.
In fact, there's no entrance and exit identified at all, correct?
Correct.
There's directionality arrows, as you previously testified to, right?
Yes.
Looks like our cartoon guy's wearing a belt and kind of some ripped jeans. You didn't make those decisions about how to dress up our cartoon guy, did you?
Seriously?
Okay. But you've been shown this cartoon previously, right?
Yes.
In fact, you were presented with a cartoon on direct examination today by the state where you pointed out that their representation was wrong, right?
Yes.
And in fact, you had to leave to fix it and come back so you could testify to it, right?
Yes.
And if we're being honest about it, earlier today isn't the first time they showed you a cartoon representation similar to this, right?
Correct.
A couple weeks ago, you met with the state in something called a pretrial conference.
Correct.
And they showed you a cartoon guy then too, right?
Right.
Okay. At that time, you said, hey, you got it wrong. You need to fix it, right?
Correct.
And even when they fixed it today, they still had it wrong, right?
Correct.
You'd agree with me the photographs of the actual injuries and your testimony about their trajectory is accurate medically, right?
The photographs depict the injuries.
And your testimony about it is accurate medically, right?
Correct.
You'd agree with me that cartoon guy doesn't really offer much to that testimony, right?
The
Objection.
the trajectory. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
He's such a jerk, man. Like, Tommy's like, oh, I like cartoons. I like cartoons. Oh, nodding. Oh, nope. And we're back. Oh, hurting so bad. Oh, it's definitely not that voodoo
You
doll.
agree with me that Mr. Animated Cartoon Guy here doesn't add anything to your medical testimony about the trajectory. Your testimony is the same, right?
Regarding trajectory, yes.
Okay. And you'd agree with me that our animated cartoon man here doesn't actually depict a single injury, does it?
Say again, please.
Doesn't depict a single injury, does it?
Correct. He doesn't have injuries on him.
Okay, nothing further.
So at the coroner's office, are there, occasionally do the doctors use blank drawings that are depicting, sort of a generalized person in order to mark where injuries are?
Yes.
And this would be states 330, similar to that, right? And sometimes doctors will use those blank drawings to sort of put all of the injuries onto one image. Is that fair?
Yes.
And so states 330 just gives you sort of a summary of the location of all of those injuries. Is that right?
Yes.
And while it doesn't have like the gunshot wound depicted on it, it certainly is accurate in terms of directionality and trajectory, I should say,
Yes.
and location of the injury.
Yes.
And then the arrows tell you where the entrance and exits are in conjunction, of course, with your testimony and the photographs. Is that fair?
The length of it does, and then the point of the arrow indicates that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions about that, you can write your question on the whole.
Questions. Yes.
What's your number? I'm sorry.
Yes. 11 more likes and Lucy gets a treat. Don't y'all talk to each other. Smug. Smug. Love me some jury questions. Oh, one more. One more like and Lucy gets a treat. Oh, she heard me say it that time. There it is. You get a treat. Your friends love you. Here you go. This for you. Her little nub is just a wagon.
Dr. Gavin, did you test the gloves found on Mr. Miller for gunpowder or soot?
Our office doesn't test for any of those kinds of things. That's done by the crime lab.
Dr. Gavin, can you state gunshot number 5, the entrance wound again? It seems the arrow's going the wrong way.
It's the way it looks in the photo because it's facing towards you in the anatomical position, but it's coming in from the back of the elbow and heading towards you. And so that's why it looks like the arrow is pointing towards you because anatomically it's going kind of back to front.
Can you follow based on the jury question? Defense?
Not one.
Anything else from the ladies and gentlemen, jury have any further questions for Dr. Gavin? Okay, seeing no response, thank you very much, Doctor. You are excused. Thank you for your testimony here today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, those are all the witnesses that we have for you today. I swear to you, we are bringing this to a close. I swear to you that we are getting close. So we are going to take our weekend recess. During this recess, you must not discuss or communicate with anyone, including fellow jurors, in any way regarding this case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. You must not read, watch, listen, news, or media accounts or commentary on the case. You must not do any research, such as consult dictionaries, using the internet, or using reference materials. You must not make any investigation, test the theory of the case, recreate the aspect of the case, or in any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own. You must not form or express any opinion regarding this case unless it's submitted to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be in recess until Monday morning at 10:30.
All rise for the jury.
Monday morning at 10:30. I will tell y'all while we're looking at their ceiling. I'm going to finish recording the podcast. I've done the first episode 1 was the history stuff, they took our audio. Episode 2 was the first trial, pre-trial stuff, and opening statements. And I'm doing episode 3 and 4 now, which will be the first half of what we've seen and then the second half of what we've seen. So those will both be out sometime this weekend. I will tell you, even with listening, they're not super long, but just kind of summaries. But I'll tell you that the reason it's taking me so long to do them is because I'm going back to watch again to make sure that I get everything, get all of the information, that I need, make sure that we don't miss anything. But I will tell you, if you get a chance, listen to them, because there are things that as I've gone back that I have found that I missed the first time that I don't remember us talking about in chat and stuff the first time. So I always did this when I was doing my recap videos and stuff. And then, oh my gosh, with like Murdoch and stuff like that, Murdoch especially, but like Murdoch and Melly and stuff like that, I always ended up watching, the trials at least twice, because I would, have to go back, and you always catch something when you watch it the second time. So I'm putting out the podcast. They're available on like Apple Podcast and anywhere you get podcasts, but it's 13th Juror is what it is. And it's the 13th Juror is the name of the podcast, but then it's got, there's different episodes, because we've released some of the interviews and stuff that we've done here, like with Mark Shiner and stuff like that. We've released some of those on there too. So those are like labeled exclusive interviews. These specifically are labeled The Widower. So, and episodes 1 and 2 are out right now. So listen to them when you get a chance. And please share them with people and give us 5-star reviews, because that helps so much. Making the podcast is hard because it's like, there's so many podcasts. So the best way to help us with that is reviews and then sharing them with people. All right, let's see. Marie Ma said, drum roll. I don't have a drum roll one. I have this. That'll have to do. That's our drum roll. Sidebars 8, objections 5, witness 3, testimony 2 hours 49 minutes. Recess 20 minutes. Wait for it. Right 135. Right 135. All of my stuff just went blank. Do y'all see me? All of my stuff just went blank. Oh, there y'all are. Okay, now I'm caught up. Okay, did I just go blank, or did y'all just go blank to me? Okay, y'all see me. All right, then it's just aliens again. Is that Josh's right? Where's Marie Moss? Is that Josh? Please tell me that's Josh's rights. He says it so freaking much. Let me scroll up, because I've missed a lot, because all of my stuff just went completely blank. I knew it every time Josh says right. Oh my gosh, 135. Wow. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious, right? Right? Oh my gosh, that is so funny. He's so ugh. Marie Moss, we would be lost without you. That's so funny. I love Gail Pett said, we all ran and hid for a second. It literally, all my stuff, like the little comments, I could see that there were comments, but everything was gray and my whole screen was gray. And I didn't know if y'all could see me and I could not see you or what. So, too funny. All right. Let's see. 135 times. Wow. Josh. That's probably about as many times I said, ugh, while we were watching. That has been a lot of rights. He also said that too. You're right, 80s Music Man. He said, you'd agree with me that no, Joshy, nobody agrees with you. Sit down. Not a fan. I don't like the way that he talks to humans in general. Let's be honest. Like, I don't like the way he talks to anybody. He's incredibly condescending, and which isn't that okay? Y'all know me. Y'all that have been through more than one trial with me know me, and there are only a few defense attorneys that I'm like, nope. Once you've given me the ick, like every once in a while I'll be like, all right, well, I was all right, but he still sucks, But once you give me the ick, it's like all over. But for the most part, even if I don't like the defendant, I can still appreciate a good defense attorney. Not in Lori Vallow. Not in this one. Because, I mean, look at Shabusiness. Shabusiness was god-awful. And her defense attorney, we were, like, cheering him on. Like, yeah, this one, the next one will be better. Keep your head up, friend. But these are just too much. Y'all, I appreciate, yes, Joshy is no Mark Shiner. That is for dang sure. That is for dang sure. Are we going to catch up on BK? I'll be honest, I have been working on the podcast stuff today. I haven't even pulled any of the stuff yet to see what happened. I woke up at 5 and went straight from working on podcast all day long to straight into this. So I haven't even looked. I'll try to take a look at everything over the weekend, and then Monday, we'll pull all the newest court docs and everything, and we can look at it before we start, because we're not starting till 10:30 Pacific Monday, and there's no other hearings for us to watch Monday morning. So we will start a little bit early on Monday, and we'll go over the BK stuff. How's that? But right now, I'm ready to start my weekend. I've still got podcast stuff to finish, and then I get to start my weekend. Oh, yeah. RA is, oh my gosh, what time is it? It's 6:30 now, which means it's 7:30. Is he already doing his? Is RA already in his podcast? I think he is, isn't he? Let's see. Oh, he's got 30 more minutes. What time is it? 6:30. Oh, 7 here. 8 there. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Treats for Lucy. She's so funny because she starts she's kind of a little bit of a stalker, Lucy, because I'm sitting up here eating grapes, and I even pull the bag because she knows she can't have grapes, and I tell her, but so I even pull the bag because, like, if I put them in a bowl or something, then she'll be like, "What you got there?" So I put them in the bag, and I see you. You know I'm talking about you. I'll put them in the bag so that she sees the bag and she knows that, like, oh, Mama don't let me have those because dogs can't have grapes. And she'll still sit here and stare at me just like she's doing right now. I try to tell her. We have long conversations about how she can't have grapes. Side note, we are now up to 8,607 subs. That's kind of cool, right? We're that we're now one step closer. That means we've gained 17 since like 1 a.m. or however, what time it was when I was working on that last night. That's not bad for a day's work. And we have, so now that means we have less than 1,400. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Alrighty, let me see. I think I can still portal us. Do we know when the state will rest? Okay, so here's the thing. The state said that they were going to rest today, estimated. You know, you can never really tell. They were estimated. Of course, Joshy and Mr. Bean are long-winded, so it, you know, it doesn't necessarily go how, you know, we were hoping, and, you know, things can go longer with them because Lord knows they like to hear themselves talk. But they were estimating to be done today. We've still got to hear from Dean Kelly so that Josh can blame like his ingrown, you know, toenail on him and everything that's ever happened in his whole entire world. So we still have to hear from him. And that one's going to be pretty lengthy, especially because he's the lead detective. Lead detectives always take a little bit longer because, you know, they have to go through their entire detective process. And since we had, you know, everything from, you know, like Joshy getting a swirly in 7th grade up until him failing his, you know, like failing the bar the first time, everything in between has been blamed on, you know, Detective Dean Kelly. The cross-examination on this one I expect to be a little bit more lengthy too. So that will be the last witness. That one may be called, I don't know if there's any more in between now and that one, or if that'll be the first one called Monday. But once Dean Kelly testifies and they do cross-examination on that, which that one will get spicy. Y'all, Dean Kelly don't play. He is, he has gone through this and has, you know, he knows that he's, you know, he knows that Thami is guilty and he is prepared. So, and then those defense attorneys, of course, want to blame everything under the sun on him. So that'll be a good spicy cross. So that might be Monday. As soon as he's done, then they'll rest, and then we'll start with the defense. The defense has a expert coming in, you know, to talk about all the gun stuff and poor Thami and his, you know, and his poor brain and blah, blah, blah. So, all right, let me see. I will portal us over there. Let me see if I can portal. 7. It might not be open yet. Is chat open over there yet? What could he be writing? What is he writing? He doesn't have anything to write. He doesn't have thoughts. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So I have us to where we are going to portal on over to RA and see him. There is no night court tonight. Daddy Brewmeister is in town visiting Brother Brewmeister. And so there is salty brain is the best. I've been salty. I've been real salty during this trial. I am not a fan of Thami or his stupid attorneys. All right. I'm going to put it all over there. I appreciate it so much. Please, please, please check out the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast and give us a little 5-star review and share it with people. It really does help to hear it again. And there's some things that I point out on there that we didn't catch the first time. So that's all I've got. Y'all, I will see you on RA's podcast in a minute, and I will see y'all Monday. Have a good weekend. Thank you for reporting to jury duty. Bye.